And then there were three. Aronian went for broke, and world champion Magnus Carlsen ground down Hikaru Nakamura to join Fabiano Caruana in a three-way tie for the Sinquefield Cup title. Now two countrymen and Olympic teammates will do battle for a spot at the tour finale in London. Will it be Caruana or So? Exciting playoff action coming up next.
Welcome back, everybody, to the final day of the 2018 Sinquefield Cup, held here at the St. Louis Chess Club. We start the day in the playing hall as we are waiting for the players to arrive and battle on the chessboard. We have only one matchup left, the tiebreak between Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana, to determine who's going to go to the Grand Chess Tour Finals in London. Who's going to win it all? Only time will tell. Let's go to the studio and start this exciting day with Yasser, Jen, and Maurice.
Thank you, Christian. I'm Jennifer Shahadi, and after an eventful, unexpected series of events yesterday, we are back for to call the playoffs.
Absolutely. Jennifer, a delight as always to be with you and Maurice. Wow, yesterday was intense, dramatic, pressure-filled. What to say? It's everything we'd hoped for in a tournament. Let's see our final standings and our three co-champions.
Well, indeed, yes. In an unprecedented event in the Sinquefield Cup, we crowned co-champions, and three of them, Fabiano Caruana, Aronian, and Magnus Carlsen, all sharing the cup. But we didn't decide everything because we still have a playoff between Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana for the fourth spot to London, and we're going to go to Tony Rich to draw the lots for that competition.
Yes, and we're here in the playing hall, and I'm joined by our chief arbiter for the Sinquefield Cup, international arbiter Chris Bird, who will assist in the drawing of lots. Just a couple of reminders. The format for today will be 2 rapid games at a time control of game in 25 minutes with a 10-second delay. If those 2 games are undecisive, we'll go on to up to 6 blitz games in pairs of 2. Every 2 games. If those are decisive, then that will be the end. Otherwise, we'll continue to the next set of blitz games. Time control for blitz is game in 5 minutes with a 3-second delay as well. So, Fabiano, if you would do us the honors of drawing, we have a black pawn and a white pawn in this bag, and it will determine which color Fabiano will start with. Fabiano has chosen the black pawn, so he'll begin with the black pieces at 1 o'clock, and Wesley will begin with the white pieces. They'll alternate colors from there. Thank you both very much, players, and we'll begin at 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Tony. Indeed, Fabi picking the black pawn. We'll start with the black pieces. Remember that this is for the 4th spot on the Grand Chess Tour. That 4th player will go to London, and they'll actually face their Olympic teammate, Hikaru Nakamura.
But let's see how the Sinquefield Cup ended. Jennifer, $300,000 in prizes. How was it split?
Well, the top 3, as we mentioned earlier, Magnus Carlsen, Aronian, and Fabiano Caruana sharing the title, getting 15 Grand Chess Tour points each and 55K. Meanwhile, we also saw Shakhriyar Mamidiyarov in clear 4th. But what really mattered here was the Grand Chess Tour points earned, because it really shook up the standings as Levon and Fabiano, who weren't placed in the top 4 before the event, snuck in there. Certainly by virtue of the fact that Karyakin and So didn't have very good results.
Indeed, that was the case. And here's, let's take a look at the format just one more time for our audience.
That's right. Well, Tony explained it, but for those of you who didn't understand, it's 2 rapid games to kick things off, game 25 with a 10-second delay. If that's split either by a victory for each player or 2 draws, we move to blitz. That's going to be game 5 with a 3-second delay, and we keep repeating that.
until a winner, and there's 3 pairs. And we suspect at that point there might be an Armageddon, but we'll see it when we get there, if we get there.
Yes, unlikely indeed. But this tournament has all been about the unlikely happening. And Maurice Ashley is going to fill us in on the record of these 2 players.
Well, all sports fans know how exciting it is to have knockout matchups. You have it in baseball, certainly you have it in the Final Four. When you have a shootout in soccer, people know this is what you come and look for. And certainly this will be an exciting one, as well as this is the knockout before the knockouts, as 2 players, 2 countrymen vie for the final spot in London. Wesley, who played magnificently in winning Leuven and also very well in Paris. He did tank in the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and also here at the Sinquefield Cup. He'll be facing off against Fabiano Caruana, who also had poor showings in those events, but played brilliantly to win the Sinquefield Cup and come from behind and actually find himself in this incredible position of being able to possibly make it to 4th place. But those numbers that you just saw there really tell the tale. What big scores we saw. Wesley with a big 4-0 in Rapid and also that big lead in Blitz as well. Will Fabiano be able to fight off his countryman, who is lightning fast and very confident at this time control? Well, he's been playing great all year long, and though it's been a challenge for him at the faster time controls, you see a confident look there as he will try to book another spot to London. He's already in the World Championship in London. He'll be having a long trip to Europe, or won't he? We will see as the games are set to begin.
Maybe after a little bit of a celebration tour back in the United States.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Indeed. But let's take a look at how the Grand Chess Tour standings shook out. Yes. Well, we mentioned it, Nakamura at the top. Aronian clear 2nd, MVL in clear 3rd. Levon and MVL will face off in the semifinals in London. Well, Nakamura's opponent is yet to be determined, but we know one thing, it'll be an Olympic teammate.
Absolutely. And in the Grand Chess Tour finals in London, they'll be playing for $300,000. So this playoff match guarantees the winner a $40,000 payday at the very least.
That's right, $120K for first, $40K for fourth. The reason that there's 3rd and 4th is that there will be a 3rd place match. So
exactly.
There's a semifinals match, and then the 2 winners play in the finals, and we have a 3rd place match as well.
Exactly. And there you see him, Wesley who has a remarkable record against American challenger Fabiano in both Rapid and Blitz. Maurice.
I'd like to note as well, when you looked at the prize money there, it was Hikaru. Hikaru won 2 events on the tour.
Right.
He won both the Paris event and the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. He also placed okay in the first one, but not in the Leuven event, but not great in this last one. His total prize fund is on all those 4 events is less than winning London. I mean, imagine that. 4 events total turned out to be less than that 120K. So you know why those players really wanted that London spot. That's a heck of a payday if you win or come in second. Even last place is 40K that they're playing for right now, just a guaranteed 40K. That's not bad, a little bit of extra work. You know, 2 or 3 hours to know that 40K is going to be in your pocket at least, with a possibility of another 80 on top of it. So that's big, right? These 2 really would love to have that spot in London.
Absolutely. And the prestige of being the Grand Chess Tour champion for 2018. What is that worth? The fame and the accolades that go with that as well.
Certainly
so
something in your resume.
Big payday. Looks good on the CV, huh, Maurice?
Well, remember, note that Magnus Carlsen has already repeated as Grand Chess Tour champion. He did it twice.
Right.
Can Wesley pull that off?
Exactly.
He's already won in 2016.
Exactly.
Can he pull it off this year as well? Well, he'll get a chance if he gets in. And he was saying how, well, he was playing it down a little bit, his chances of going in, and he seemed really despondent yesterday in the interview, just resigned to the fact that he wasn't going to make it. And suddenly all things broke his way, and he's here, and he gets his chance. So it's, I don't know what if his spirits were lifted when he was told, hey, buddy boy, you got playoffs tomorrow. But he got to give it his all, because this could be a real feather in his cap.
Absolutely.
And by contrast, Fabiano, no doubt, disappointed by the turn of events, as when he finished his game, he thought that there was a good chance he was just going to get clear first.
Exactly, and he
he was
wouldn't
saying
need a
maybe
playoff.
there's a, well, I can't even remember what number he gave, but he said maybe there's a 50% chance that one of the two of them will win,
Right.
or even less than that.
Exactly.
I think he even
I
said
think
less.
so, yeah.
So, because at that time it looked like Grichuk was doing pretty well, and the game between Nakamura and Magnus looked so drawish. So,
Yeah.
without a single move being played, the emotional swings that both of these men have had in 22 hours or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Pretty high swings.
Absolutely, and there's the handshake. I noted that Frank Camerata, the game chess set designer for the Sinquefield Cup set, as well as the founder of the House of Staunton, made the opening ceremonial first move, and now D2, D4, and away they go. The playoffs are underway, Jennifer.
Big game, I think. Big match for Fabiano. I know it sounds maybe he's won everything. What's the big deal? He's got to start showing that he can fight in rapid, because if he ties Magnus in November in the classical portion of their match, he's going to face relentless pressure from him in the rapids.
Precisely.
And he's currently number 12 in the world in rapid, as Magnus is number 1. He's even worse in blitz. He's number 19 in the world, and Magnus is also number 1. So I think he's going to have to start showing something here, or the pressure's going to be on for him to defeat the world champion in the classical period, classical portion.
That's the plan, I think.
Well, it's fantastic training for rapids and blitz for Fabi, as he's going to be preparing for his match in London. He's already started, of course. But there is a chance of a playoff, and you cannot simulate the conditions of a chess clock at a competition.
After those 2 weeks of intense, 3 weeks rather,
Of
of
intense
intense competition and emotional swings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this type of a competition is ideal for him in his training. And we've seen the
agree.
Catalan.
That's a great way to look at it, guys. You accuse me of looking at the positives too
But
often.
that is a
This is a
positive.
good positive.
We've seen a Catalan with knight c6, and then queen a4 check. Queen a4. I was about to say check. It's not a check. It is a white intends to recapture this pawn, and I think bishop b4
Bishop
check.
b4 check was played, followed by bishop to d2.
Right.
And then
all very standard stuff thus far, Maurice.
And then knight to d5.
Okay, protecting the bishop.
And the capture on b4, and of course knight takes b4.
Now, white would like to capture this pawn on c4. So if you play a move like a2, a3, just keep in mind that after b5, this square c2 is weak. So what's the...
Castles is plain enough.
Yes,
And
the
has been
database
played.
suggests castles, and that is what Wesley has played.
Note that knight takes on b4 for those who record their chess moves during their tournament games, as you're obligated to. You don't have to write knight d takes on b4, because knight c takes on b4 was illegal. So, so knight takes b4 is sufficient.
You're going for extreme accuracy in your note score taking.
You know, there are those youngsters out there
Yeah, absolutely.
who are learning still, and even some adults who are learning the notations and may wonder about the subtleties of it. But that's neither here nor there at this moment, as now the move rook to b8 has been played with the very transparent threat of b5.
Absolutely. b7, b5, which would not only protect the pawn on c4, will gain a tempo against white's queen.
I will note that the engine's like white here.
After knight e5, I assume?
No, knight e5, just simply knight to c3, and
Stopping b5 for the moment.
continuing the game at the moment. White is
And after a6?
knight c3, a6, and then knight e5.
Oh, get in the move knight c3, provoke a6, and now knight e5.
Although b5 is answered, b5 is
I've got
problem
that.
on
Knight takes
c6.
c6.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
that would
that's a
probably...
big problem, right?
Well, okay, so if we continue the line, bishop d7, I'll take, I'll recapture my pawn, and I'll be standing with an advantage.
Knight to a3 has been
Whoa.
placed on the board. Knight a3, the engines don't like this move,
after castles. Now knight takes on c4 is
Not on tap.
not playable after castles because of the move b5. And knight e5 also has no real danger, but looks like he was ready for this idea after castles.
Castle's on the board.
Queen b5 was played.
Sidestepping the trick that you mentioned, knight takes c4 would walk into a pawn fork with b5. So Wesley, anxious to recapture his pawn, has just played the move queen on a4 to b5.
Wow, and the sharp b6 on the board.
b7, b6.
b7, b6, queen takes c4, and bishop to a6.
Right, hammering on this diagonal. I was about to say diagonal.
It's only one move.
Only one move. I got to block the threat to my queen with the move knight b5.
Wesley hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, grandmasters are loath to walk into self pins, but that's simply obliged. There's no choice. And
So
very quickly, look at how Fabi is playing as well. The players are just blitzing out these moves. And remember, it's a rapid game with 25 minutes. They've only used, roughly speaking, 1 minute, 2 minutes apiece.
I was trying to understand why knight takes d4 was not possible.
Sorry, what was it?
Probably something simple. Knight takes d4 here. Why is that not possible?
Knight takes d4.
Oh, you just take with the knight, right?
This guy is hanging.
That
this
one
guy
was
is
knight.
hanging.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops. Okay,
And then-
but queen e8 is setting up for tricks.
And this is still in theory,
A2,
or at least
A4.
praxis, which has been
Knight
played
E5.
5 times already. This move queen e8. There are various responses. It doesn't seem as though the trick is any. There's a real trick given the hanging knight on b4
Yeah, that's the problem. So
at the moment. So you can
No
play a
good
rook
discovery.
c1 in this position, as the discovery is not really there.
Rook
Right.
fc1, protecting the queen, loading up for some counter tactics with knight takes c7.
It's so awkward, these two knights. It's like we have tactics, but the knights keep getting in the way of the tactics, right?
Right. Well, if the move queen e8 is ineffectual, though, Maurice,
Queen e8 is
Why play
considered maybe the best move here.
and then how does black...
And a knight d5, answering
Knight.
the problem of the knight on b4,
Aha.
and being prepared to capture the knight on b5 after you take on c6.
Got it.
So queen c6,
And that
queen
would
c6,
actually-
and rook c6, bishop takes on b5, and black gets out of the woods.
And then
Gotcha.
what's the prognosis after rooks? I guess we have to play rook c2.
Rook
Still a little
C2.
better for white.
A
huh?
little bit better for
little.
white, absolutely.
Well,
A little
that's a
pressure
nice
on the c
pickup.
line and easy play in the center.
Yeah.
But Wesley is giving a deep think to this position. Either he knows the theory and just wants to set himself, or he thinks that Fabiano has got something waiting for him, as Fabi is obviously playing very quickly.
Indeed he has.
And maybe Wesley's a little bit afraid of a novelty dropping on his head.
Right. Can I play devil's advocate for a moment? And if I'm of the opinion that queen e8 has no tactical oomph to it, let's put it that way, and your black's idea of unwinding is to retreat the knight to d5 and only then threaten knight a5, what if I take the contrarian road? By the way, rook fc1 was played. I was going to say I could play e4, and the position I was looking at, and I was saying, well, this is also a very nice advantage for white, because I've got the c file, and these black minor pieces don't look so good.
But
in
rook
any
c1
case,
was the choice
right?
of
The
Wesley.
main move, rook c1, has now been played,
Knight
and
d5.
knight d5 very quickly. So both players showing their familiarity with this line of the Catalan.
And there is the endgame with queen c6 waiting to appear.
Right, so we've anticipated all of these captures. A moment ago, this knight on d5 in the line I was showing was over here on a5. But it's all about the c-pawn, right, Maurice? I mean, if white can hammer and keep this c7 pawn, backward pawn, he'll have a long-term advantage. I don't know, but this just, it feels much easier to play for white.
Well, interesting because of the dynamics of the position that black can play the move c5.
And this rook on b8 in case of a double capture. And we do have this
We're
ending.
seeing the
It's
ending
about
appear on the board. He must Surprised he's hesitating right here. The queen must be captured.
For sure, but it is a 10-second delay. So
He's using all of it.
yeah, I think he's using more than all of it. So do keep in mind that sometimes it's wise to use the 10 seconds so that you can think about the position that will occur later.
Absolutely.
Because it's not like the increment. It doesn't add to your clock.
Right.
So that's a kind of strategic thing with the delay that I think as they get used to it, they'll get better
Exploit it a little
Yeah.
bit better than they have
Because
thus
Magnus
far.
is the master of that, knowing how to exploit all the different time controls. And I think some of the other players, it takes them longer to try to figure that out, but they do get it.
Right. To adjust to that.
Now we could see a position reminiscent of yesterday's game that Magnus had against Hikaru, with the pawn on c5 being weakened, as c5 is playable.
Split.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to face enormous pressure on that c line no matter what you do. And e4 is coming to try to win your pawn on c7.
Right.
So you need to resolve this issue quickly before you get into some kind of terrific bind. Now, after takes on c5, white will not take again because of this position.
Exactly.
So the actual way black doesn't want to take immediately, according to the engines, the better move is the move rook f to c8.
Slip in that little tempo.
And you always have the idea of a knight b4 popping in as well, depending on what you do next. Because, of course, you move your rook, then you might see knight b4 appear on the board, and then a2 is going to hang, and some tactics already flaring up on the chessboard. So this is an idea. If Fabi had prepared all of this to this position, I would dare say he should have prepared even more, because this position is pretty much forced, and you don't want to say, okay, now I start looking at a lost endgame.
Or
right?
a worse ending.
Or a worse ending, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can prepare as many moves as he has up to this point, which is move 17. It might seem like, okay, when he got to it, he could stop preparing now. But if you're going to force this position, it seems to me that you should know how you're getting out of it, because at the end of it, you look and you say, there's some pressure. We all look at it, and we don't like rook on the c line, knight on e5, pawn on e4, bishop on the long diagonal. So if he had prepared this, it seems odd that he's thinking right now.
Well, exactly. Catalan players would rejoice if they could get in moves like knight e5 to knight c6. So c5 looks like a must move, by the way. And here I'm just having some doubts, because, I mean, if I play a move like a3 and we have rook c8 and I play rook c1, I'm really liking white's position if it's my turn, but you got this annoying move, bishop a4, and it's like, I don't want to walk up the board and walk into a position where my rook gets ensnared. So after c5, this captures rook f c8. How could I make hay out of this position? Knight to d4, opening up my bishop. You'll take my pawn on c5, I guess, Maurice? Takes, knight takes, rook takes. We've got the imbalance of bishop.
And he has played
versus
rook
knight.
f to c8, which is a very nuanced move, a timing issue that's quite critical here, defending the pawn and preparing knight to b4. And that move prevents your rook on a1 from moving without calculating those tactics. And if he can chase you off the c line, then he can play c5 and capture with a rook and not weaken his pawn structure at all. That would solve all his problems.
Well, that line that I was just looking at with c5 takes rook f c8, in this line of play, white is given the option of knight d4, which is a very useful move. It attacks the bishop with a gain of tempo and opens up the view of the bishop on g2. So I like this move, rook on f8 to c8, preparing c5 without allowing any knight d4 sudden move like that.
That's a strong move, and if anything, white might have a sliver of an advantage, but only because of space now, not because of that weak pawn, as it looks like he has a way to concretely solve the problem of advancing that pawn without creating any weaknesses in his position, at least structural weaknesses. If he could get in c5, that's going to be it.
Without cost.
Without any cost, that's going to be it. You're going to not have much as white. It'll be optical only, as black's pawn structure is so extraordinarily solid that he'll have nothing to fear.
All right. Let's see what I could do here for what. This move, knight b4, the more I look at it, the more bothersome it appears to me. I mean, it's really an annoying move. Imagine I play A3, Maurice.
The problem is
C5.
isn't that bishop move you talked about? Yes. How do you?
In this exact moment, bishop A4.
I guess the bishop A4, you could go back to C1. Is your plan?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're going to be thrilled by that. I'm going to play C5.
Okay, rook D2, C5, knight E5. Again, I'm looking to get this kind of a Catalan ending where I'll make the trade of my bishop for your knight. I'll put the knight on D3 a la Ulf Anderson, and then I'll try to make some pretenses of being better. Here you
If I give it to you, I could also move my knight, no?
Knight back, for example.
Just wondering if I can move it somewhere and deal with that position.
It does feel, yeah, that move knight A, yeah, that move bishop A4 is disturbing, I must say.
And this position, I'm being told, did appear in a game between Vidit and Bu, both very strong 2,700 players in China in this month.
No.
Recently played, probably in the Chinese
Really?
chess league. I know they just had a super tournament there.
Yes.
And this position has been seen.
Okay.
So Fabi up on the latest wrinkles as Wesley is deep in thought now, trying to figure out exactly what to do. Just shows you the depth of preparation, the awareness of latest events by the top players as openings are being played by the best players all over the world.
Okay, let me be my most direct self. I'll play knight E5, eyeballing the C6 square. I'm more or less expecting you to play C5. Would you do that, Maurice? I see.
And a move has been played, by the way. Rook AC1. We were concerned about knight B4 for a number of reasons. And this move is certainly a possibility. Knight to B4. It looks like he's thinking he can bring his rook back to A1. And
give me the pawn. Rook
as well, yes.
So rook takes rook. No, because but now with my rook already established here, I got this guy.
Looks like
and
a lot
I
of
got
activity
this guy.
after knight E5.
No. So we're looking at C5 as a prelude to this move knight B4. So it's in this variation that we were mentioning that A2 pawn being vulnerable, right?
Yes, and Wesley's move is a new one.
This is a novelty.
Deviating from the game, this move, rook to C1. And so Fabi's on his own now, and we'll want to see why didn't Vidit play it. And he understands that he can play C5, takes, and now we expect to see knight to B4 on the board. And even if he loosens that position,
and there it is, knight b4, great
off the pawns on C5, even if he does that, it will not be enough for white because black is getting serious counterplay down the B line.
Okay, so
now what do we take with now? Yeah,
exactly.
on C5, rook or pawn?
Let's imagine rook for just for a moment. Rook takes, pawn takes, and this is once again that pawn structure that we saw between Magnus and Hikaru from yesterday's dramatic final round day. Imagine the move A2, A3, attacking the knight. My idea is if you go back to C6, I want to try to put some pressure on that C5 pawn. Also, you're giving me opportunity to land on D7.
Knight to D4.
Knight to D5? Yeah.
No, I meant if I play knight C6.
Oh, sorry.
After rook C2, can I get away with playing knight C4, thinking that E2 is hanging?
Exactly.
In case of rook takes C5.
Exactly. E2 would be hanging. Rook takes C5. Knight takes. King.
And interestingly, my knight
is a little bit far afield, right?
But your back rank is in bad shape as well. So do these two things cancel out?
Well, I got this guy under attack. Maurice was mentioning, well, that you got some pressure along the B file. I can deal with that pressure.
And then try to play rook D8, activating, threatening rook D1.
Let me get an H4. I like space.
Oh, white looks good here. Black had a better way to handle himself.
Yeah, that knight on E2 is not impressive.
It's optical only.
Yeah. So,
it's odd how knights on the 5th are really good. The 6th are really amazing, but on the 7th are usually nothing.
Isn't that
Nobody
funny,
posts your
right?
knight on the 7th and say, "Ooh, this one's going to sit here for a long time." We can work around that. It's too close to the action.
Anastasia
the 6th. but
The
not
fifth
the
and the
seventh.
sixth are great.
Right, but not the seventh.
I mean, the
You're
six
forgetting about
especially is
the
great, but the
Anastasia,
seven.
mate.
Oh yeah, in terms of tactics, only because it guards a
Seven.
square, but
Yeah.
not for long-term pressure and tactics. Usually, the knight on the seventh rank doesn't mean
That's
that
because
much.
it doesn't work in the
How about another approach?
two up and one over.
Yeah, it's
Right.
reaching too far. It's
Yeah.
reaching beyond the chessboard when it does that. So you prefer it on the sixth. But this line, guys, if we go back
Yeah,
in this position,
and white crashes through on the seventh rank, something that Fabio. So this is the current position.
and he hasn't moved yet. There's a thematic here, though.
There's
and we
rook
should
takes
note it. Rook takes
c5.
c5. Let's play that move.
Okay.
Rook
Takes c5. Rook takes. Pawn takes.
Rook
I
a3,
played-
knight back. And this move, rook c2, you have to be careful about the move c4.
c3, c5, c4. Okay.
Maybe
so
careful is overstating it. But,
I can't play knight here. I get that because of knight d4, right?
and he's taken on a2
Fabi's taking on A2
instead.
on C5.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, but I was about to reject it, frankly. The reason I was about to reject it was after knight takes a2, rook a1, knight drops back to b4, rook takes a7, and I was thinking, well, I've conquered the seventh rank is strong, but I've posted up on the seventh rank before black is going to have to deal with ideas of knight e5, knight g5. Should he take this pawn? I'm a little reluctant to do this. Let's say knight e5. This just looks like a nice advantage, and it's not an optical one.
Well, rook takes is possible there as well, yes.
Okay, rook takes c5, so you're hitting my back rank, and I don't want to necessarily block that check with my bishop.
You also
So-
guarded the e5 square, very importantly, keeping the knight off the fifth, and your bishop is guarding the seventh rank for the moment as
Right.
well.
So let me throw an h4 idea, straightforward idea of knight g5, as well as giving my king a little luft from any checks on the first rank.
And if h6 here?
h7, h6. Now, can I make hay of this situation?
That bishop is so powerful on b5. There's no back rank
know.
issues anymore. And white's minors are struggling to
A
find
little
any
bit of a
foothold.
struggle. Okay, and if I go knight d4,
d4 looks like the only place to go.
then you've got rook d8 as a counter to my knight's jumping.
Black is fine here. Rook a7 is also only optical. That's the challenge in chess, right? These optical moves. And he's stopping to look at, and he's done it. He has, in fact, taken on a7. The Indians much prefer knight to d4 in this position to play knight d4 instead of what he just did.
Which was capturing on a7. Well,
But in all lines, it's only giving a slight edge to white, not really giving white much. Bishop e8 playable there, and then if you take, we already looked at rook takes on c5.
yeah, well, I'm all for moving that knight on d4 and opening up the bishop on g2. King's Indian defense players, Grunfeld defense players, Catalan players all love to have a bishop that has a wonderful view on the long diagonal. But okay, rook takes c5. You mentioned, Marie says, protecting the e5 square, very important, threatening a check on the first rank, and challenging white to improve his minor pieces.
And
Makes a
even
lot of
sharper, given that white's b pawn has now been weakened, even sharper is the move knight to c6. That's an ambitious move, actually. Knight to c6, chasing your rook, not allowing the doubling on the rank, and also preventing knight e5. And then capturing on c5 with the b pawn and saying, all right, someday you might win my c pawn, but I've got my own counterplay as well. So this is a sharp-ish, I guess, way to play. Rook c5 looks so solid. Rook
Yeah.
c5 says, I got the black pieces, I get a draw, and then I'm going to hunt you down for the title with white.
That's right. Well, for the playoff
Playoff
spot, for those
spot,
of you who
yeah.
are just joining us, it's a reminder that this game between Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana is to determine who gets the coveted fourth spot to play in the Grand Chess Tour Finals in London in December. But I think that, indeed, Maurice, if Fabi gets a comfortable draw in this game with black, it's all about that second game, getting that crack with the white pieces.
Absolutely, and it will be a big confidence booster because as we came into our show, welcome to those who are joining us a little bit late, Maurice had presented how in the past the record that each player has against one another in both rapid and blitz, and Wesley has a formidable record in his favor.
And also the position he has. I mean, this was a really comfortable position, and Fabi seems to have found a lot of precise moves. Like, I love the whole C5 and night before idea.
Yeah, and Maurice.
But look at the clock. He had that 2-minute edge at least on the clock, and he's allowed in this position for his time to go below Wesley's for the first time in the game. And Magnus has shown that the great rapid and blitz players, when they get you behind on the clock, they start trending that way, and a couple of challenging moves could push you over and start prompting some mistakes. I'm surprised that he chose this moment. Maybe he feels like it's the hypercritical moment to look at and calculating all the possibilities. And he has played knight to c6, the sharper of the moves. But he's going to have to be very careful, watchful of his clock situation, as Wesley's incredibly practical in rapid chess.
Exactly.
I would not be surprised to see Wesley just drop his rook back very fast because staying in the heart of the position is
impossible.
Looking dubious.
Yeah.
But still, let's just watch that. Let's just watch the clock management, because that's really the great players. We talked about this yesterday. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because you start looking for the perfect moves, your clock, especially in this time control, just simply evaporates, and you wonder, where did my time go?
Right.
And you start making critical judgment mistakes, the way Nakamura did yesterday. He played that ending in just such a strange fashion.
And remember, of course, that Aronian, when he played that incredibly bold rook sacrifice, rook takes f7, he admitted that he was also doing it because only 9 minutes on Sasha's clock at that time.
Yes.
And there was so many practical problems that Sasha was going to have to solve with very little time.
And yet these are the top players in the world. It goes to show that there's still so much to improve no matter what level you are at chess. And that should really encourage you, because if you're sitting there and you have an amateur rating, you can start anywhere.
Yes.
One thing that we really noticed a lot about this tournament and the Rapid and Blitz was the end game and how important it was. You mentioned the Nakamura game yesterday. Yeah. And I saw Grandmaster Tisdale actually pointed out that there was an article in American Chess Magazine, I think by Fishbein, about that exact end game.
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
MVL lost.
Yeah, against
And
Gregory,
it was covered
yeah.
in American Chess Magazine in an article. So, yeah, these end games that have popped up, and then there was the Lucina position in the game with Lucina and Felidor in the MVL game yesterday that Karyakin successfully defended. It's just encouraging to those of you at home, learn these end game basics, because even the very top players in the world are messing them up. So if you know them well, think about how you're just going to dominate at the amateur level.
I think that end games have become even more important in the computer age, because players now can make sure the openings are tight. I remember many years ago, my trainer, when my path to becoming a grandmaster, Gregory Kaidanov, he said it's almost impossible to get an edge with white these days, because players with black just keep putting the moves into the engine, and they're finding ways to save positions that used to be enormous pressure on black that black would run away from.
Right.
So these days, the openings are mattering less, and the later stages, the middle game and the end games, are mattering more. That's why someone like Magnus, as we see Rook all the way back to A1, still holding that piece though, holding it, and finally letting it go.
That looked like a little yogi position, didn't it? It's like holding the rook, kind of like curling up.
Right.
Someone like Magnus, whose end game is so proficient, so precise, so relentless, he can take positions that he says, yeah, you know it's equal. I know it's equal. Guess who's the better player?
But the other thing about, I totally agree with you, and I almost called you Magnus, Maurice. You got upgraded.
And very easy. No.
Very,
very easy mistake to make. Yes.
But yeah, I was going to say that because of the increment, that can lengthen the end game. And what we see Magnus do quite often is say, hey, we have the increment, let's make this a longer game.
Absolutely.
The longer the game is, the more it benefits the stronger player. That's why some people say that the game of Go is even more skill-oriented than chess.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you really define that, but what they're saying is that there's a longer game, and the more moves that there are, the more chances it is for the better player to show their dominance.
Absolutely. I'll keep posing you problems each and every time. Now, if you answer all the questions well, okay, you get your draw. But just slip up just a little bit, give me a little bit of something, and I'll keep pressing and pressing. And we've seen Magnus do it. It's almost like a kind of a dark magic out of nothing.
But that said, also, Jen, I think that if there were no time on the clock, let's say there were no increment,
Right.
it would be even more advantageous for Magnus. Because his endgame skills are so proficient, right? He's so good, he's so natural, that the less time he has, the more he's going, problem, I see what to do you? Another problem, and you're going, oh my God, I have no time extra to even think about these problems. So I think as long as you have that endgame skill in your pocket, you could put any time on the clock, you're going to make people suffer.
Exactly.
What you're lucky about now is that there's so many different ways to study the endgame. We had a question from a caller. We had a couple questions about the endgame, but I have so many different suggestions. Go on to chess.com or your other favorite server to play chess and play endgames out against the computer, basic endgames,
Right.
study books, make flashcards, make your own chess base file.
There's so many training programs too, both for tactics or positional and endgame. By the way, I'm not quite sure I understand it. Why did Wesley withdraw his rook all the way back to A1? Wouldn't it have been nicer on the A3 square, Maurice?
That's a good question. Rook A3 was the engine's first choice in that position. I guess he just didn't want to be in range of something, or maybe to protect his own back row.
Maybe he's looking at playing rook D1 one day or rook C1. I guess rook A3, you can go to C3, but D3 is off the menu.
Well, for sure. And after, by the way, I like this move also, H7, H6 very much. That limits White's knight. White's knight's not jumping.
I was about
which
to ask
means
you
his
about that as
bishop-
well.
his
Because
bishop
given
isn't
the light
working.
squared bishop,
Yeah.
sometimes you choose to play G6 because you don't want any back rank issues. But in
Right.
this situation, now that bishop F1 has been played, there will be no back rank issues at all, as the trade
Right.
has been effectuated
And-
on F1.
Well, I see the move H7, H6 not only to stop the jump knight G5, but maybe on a good day to play G5, G4 and try to ensconce the knight,
Your own
black
ideas.
knight to F3. I see the bishop on B5 as being better than its counterpart, so I would have played bishop F1. That was the choice of Wesley as well. We've seen a trade, and a king has recaptured, and this endgame is very, very even, to be sure.
And easy for black,
Easy
with no
for black
question
to
about
play.
it. The worst that can happen is a trade of B for C,
Right.
pawns that is, and
Something like a move like rook b5,
And
with the
double
idea
rooks, you'll
of
never
doubling
do
rooks, showing my, rook b5,
Rook B5 indeed
looks very
was played.
simple, showing my willingness to trade this pawn on c5 for this pawn on b2.
Do you have a preference for either player here? Yes,
No,
or do you
no,
think
this
that
is just equal,
the
just
B2
dead.
and C5 pawns
Are
simply cancel each other out as
That's
weaknesses.
exactly, yeah, they offset, absolutely, no question
The thing about it is, in the middle game, usually the C5 pawn is weaker than the B2 pawn. But once pieces get traded, they're equally weak because it's
Yeah.
just as easy to target B2 as C5.
Right. Now, the only thing I will say that would be the joker is if by some miracle you went whoop, and somehow the king got to C1 faster than you could pile pressure up against the B2, then it's
that's a
potential.
NASCAR king.
Yeah. That's like,
Hey,
you
you
got
guys
a
are ready to call,
hydroplane across the first
you guys
rank.
are ready to call the Fisher Random, I see.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
A
Get that.
long tassel.
Yeah, get that king over to c1, and then there is a potential that the c5 pawn could be more vulnerable than the b2 pawn. But since that's not going to happen, I see the whole queen side going off, and then I'm seeing just 4 versus 4 on the king side with an extra pair of knights.
So your crystal ball is showing you a draw in this game.
Like 99%. There.
Nine?
Well, okay.
99?
That was hyperbole. I agree.
Somewhere between 90 and 99.
Somewhere between 50 and 99.
No, that's too big. That's too big a range. No, 90, certainly between 90
You really
and
narrowed it
99.
down there.
Well, thank you very much.
The issue now, I think, as Fabiano is looking at this position, and again, his clock ticking down, I think Wesley has resigned himself to the fact that he got nothing out of the opening, and that
Exactly.
Ooh, he got a little something out of the opening, I thought.
I'm talking about this position right now.
Oh, okay.
He
Gotcha.
got zip.
Yeah.
It's now a draw.
Yes.
He knows he can make a draw easily.
Right.
The issue right now is, what is Fabi thinking? Is
Right.
he thinking, okay, I'll just make a draw easily as well, or will he look to milk something out of what really looks like a deadish
you
position?
Well, I mean, from Fabi's point of view, again, it'd have to be a very good day indeed. He's got ideas of knight a5, knight c4, knight b3. The problem in such a case is, number one, you're releasing white's knight to jump in the center.
And rook d7 can come into the position.
Rook d7 most especially can come into the position.
When you
and
don't have rook
that's-
d8 anymore, because
that's
your
not
knight.
that's not what you want to bargain for. So I'm thinking, I was thinking that rook on c8 to b8 and chop off those pawns as quickly as possible.
I mean, this is just easy peasy liquidation. Only if Fabi thinks he can maybe somehow play for a win. But the liquidation just looks so obvious here that
so just
I
to
would,
put a
if
move
I
on the
had
board.
black, I'd say, you know what, there's nothing here. Let me just make a couple of moves. I would not let my time tick down unless Wesley can't even offer a draw, so he's not allowed to do that. So
Is that true also in the blitz? You're not allowed to
I'm
offer a
not-
We'll
draw.
confirm
in
that,
blitz?
but I believe so.
I would assume that that is the case. But now with the move king to f8, a very good move, bringing the king toward the middle as well. I just don't see why he wouldn't just think this is equal, this is going to be no problem for me, and I'm going to get the white pieces next and go for it with that.
I
Because
think
this
that's
just looks
exactly
too
his
solid.
attitude. King coming to e7.
After rook b8, what was Wesley's move?
You
Sorry.
gotta think that after
Jenna, rook b5 was Fabi's move, and then Wesley made a move.
Rook c1, Rook c1,
Okay.
and then king f8. And it's funny that Wesley didn't play this opening yesterday, right? He would have gotten a lot more than he did in the game.
He's doubled rooks on
Getting white
on the
twice
c
in a row
file,
against
rook to
Bobby.
c2.
Yeah.
Rook dc2 has been played.
King f8, rook dc2, yes.
I mean, wouldn't you agree? Like this compared to the Petrov that he got, not now, but like earlier in the game.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was pretty,
No.
pretty
The
promising
Petrov
for white.
yesterday gave Wesley absolutely zippo, zero nada. And here he's, earlier.
Now he has not much, but earlier in the game, it really seemed like one of those nagging Catalan. I feel like maybe it's just personally, I've always had issues with playing against openings like the Catalan, but it does feel to me that when we see that opening, black struggles
Yes.
more than in some other lines.
Yes, you have to be very accurate, very precise, in fact. The Catalan is kind of like one of those slow build-up. And, if you're black and you have any contempt for the Catalan, like, oh, this is nothing, oh, I'm having issues.
Oh, no, the Catalan has no idea. Kramnik has shown that many a time.
It's got a good dollop of poison in it.
Now, we could see a repetition now, by the way. The move knight to b4, hitting the rook on c2. The rook can't go to c3, obviously, because of
And
and
there
knight
it
b4
is.
has been played. Rook cannot go to c3 because of knight to a2.
Whoops.
And that would be crying
And Wesley's
and
fans
gnashing
are
of
crying.
teeth. But
Yes.
and also the move rook to c4 could be met by the move knight to d3,
Whoops.
causing some issues as well as we see another fork. So in this position, it would be wise for white to play the move rook to d2,
Now
and
what-
black could now drop back with knight to c6 and say, would you like peace?
But maybe
Yeah.
he'll just, in that position, what about playing c4 to try to play knight d3?
And this move is the other move he could play to
knight
try to
d4.
get a repetition.
So
Well,
instead
actually,
of
this doesn't go for a
instead
knight
of rook
repetition.
d2, he played knight to d4 after.
I'm sorry, knight
He
b4,
played
knight
knight
d4.
Knight
d4.
d4. And
Okay,
rook a5.
you attack my rook, I attack your rook. What's the problem?
The pawn on c5 is pinned. Knight takes c2. Knight takes b5.
Right, knight takes c2, knight takes b5, and
That's
this
forcing knight to b4.
forcing knight to b4, and then we could play, for example, knight to d6, and
still
maybe
equality.
And yeah, but it's black who's calculating making
I
sure
like
that they're
the knight on
calculating all the
c4,
threats.
actually.
Yeah,
I have a propensity, a like from the English opening.
Because it blockades and it protects the only weakness on b2.
Exactly.
And he has played that
taken-
move.
He's taken
That's
on
surprising. He had the
C2.
move rook a5, which was better in that position for him. To play rook a5, knight b3 looks tricky, but after rook to a2, there's nothing here for white to play for.
But this is why Fabi decided to play rook b8 instead of r knight b4, perhaps much more accurate.
Okay,
Because-
so
Because
he's
now we're
attack-
forcing the trade. Okay,
I
this is
can't-
much better.
I can't move
Yeah.
the knight because of rook takes b2. But
This is why Fabi did it, because
Well, remember when I was saying if we could hydroplane across to the first rank to c2?
But I can play for c4. Does that help me? Not
Or
I
really.
think
maybe
just
you
need to
could
put a
just go
king.
king.
Yeah, just start with the
Just
king.
put a king on d6, and this is a draw. But how they're going to make the draw will be interesting because if there is no draw offer, then there won't be any repetition in this position that looks very obvious. Maybe king c4, rook b4 check, and some king move back in order to do it. But I think they're both very aware right now that this position is drawn.
Whoa, we have knight a3. Knight a3.
Knight
Not
a3
rook
instead
takes.
of rook takes c2.
Okay, so the idea I can imagine for Wesley is that he's thinking his king is in the square, pardon me, and that if you push your pawn, well, I'm not so
I can
sure I
also play
like
rook-
this.
I can also play rook b2. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not so
I
sure
think
I
he's,
like
I
this.
think he's just taking everything off the board.
Yeah, this is going to be
Yeah.
Hoover City.
It's just a vacuum. The A and the C pawns are going off, and we're going to see a draw.
Knight b4 is also playable as opposed to knight takes a3.
Okay.
In order
well,
to get the similar idea, knight b4, and if you take on c5, then simply knight d3.
Ooh, well, this is a position I would like to play if I were white, because if I can set my knight up on c4, I'm blockading your pawn. No, he's traded.
he's taken.
I like this. I think that this is the most solid choice by Fabi. We've seen this knight trade. It's on the board. And now it's rook a8 or rook b3.
Rook b3, get active, and then rook a1. You want to put your rook behind the passed pawn, but you kind of want the pawn to be a little bit more further advanced when you do it.
I certainly do.
And I've been informed that draw offers are allowed at any time
In
the Rapids.
in the playoffs.
in the
essentially.
playoffs. Draw
Yeah.
offers are allowed at any time, which is interesting, especially since it's being televised. I would hate if they drew it in two moves.
It's not going to happen, Maurice.
Well, if we see rook takes
Don't
c5
worry.
and rook takes a3,
There's
and
too
we
much
have seen
in
it.
these move pairs. The pressure
and there's
is
the draw offer.
And we have a draw.
That's okay.
And
Well, this was a
Fabi-
very well played game
It
for a
was
rapid game.
for a rapid
Accurate.
game indeed.
Pretty
but
accurate.
Wow.
They were both very well prepared, Yaz. And it's interesting that we could have seen this game yesterday in their all-important Sinquefield Cup clash. But to Maurice's point, with a move pair, the pressure is on when you have the white pieces. We're never going to see a quick draw offer
No.
because you really need to try to make the most of your win. Of your white pieces.
Right.
Remember that if Fabi only draws his rapid game, then we go to blitz, and we know that that's not necessarily Fabiano's preference.
Yeah,
he'd
exactly.
rather try to win in the rapid
Right.
with a free crack with the white pieces. So he's going to try his very hardest.
When I look at this game and I see how smoothly Fabiano was able to neutralize White's opening advantage, I'm reminded of Maurice's interview yesterday with Wesley, where Maurice is saying, "Well, didn't you want to get play?" And a kind of question from Wesley is, "Can you show me how to get play?" And that he even thought of playing 1 f2 f4 on move 1 yesterday, because that's the problem of how do you get a position where your opponent, number 1, isn't completely familiar with it, number 2, gives you presumably the better
It's not
player the
easy.
opportunity to show your
It's not easy. And
strut your stuff.
And we did mention that Wesley had a chance to qualify even with a draw. It's just that there were many more scenarios where a win would have gotten him there.
Exactly.
But now, of course, he proves everybody wrong in terms of wanting him to take lots of risks.
Exactly.
Because he found himself in this position rather than trying to overpress with white.
Exactly.
What would have
But-
happened if he had lost?
Who's that?
Wesley. That's a good question. Because Nakamura also lost, he would have gotten the playoff. But I believe that if Nakamura had drawn, he would have been out
He
still.
would have been out by that slim
Yeah.
point.
Because Fabi would have gotten
Probably would have had that little
more
edge.
more grand chess door points.
Yes.
A draw by Nakamura yesterday guaranteed Fabi's road to London.
Well, also, if So loses and Nakamura drew, I think they would have had the same number of points. That's the idea. That's why losing would have cost him something. So he would have gotten like 2.5 points instead of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Now the shoe is on the other foot. How is Fabi going to get an advantage with his game with the white?
Well, predict his first move, Yaz. E4, D4, C4, or none of the above.
One of the above.
Good answer.
Well, thank you very much. All right. Well, are we going to take a break? And first of all, they definitely will come back at 2 o'clock. We know that, right, from Tony's
Actually,
announcements,
they'll be back
right?
earlier than 2 o'clock because they said that it would be a 10-minute break or at 2,
whatever
whichever comes first.
Gotcha.
Yeah, although this is so close.
That means that they'll come in. They've ended about 3 or so minutes ago, so I would say that
We've
no
only
more
got
than 7 minutes.
Okay, I didn't
for
know
them
if
to
we
start their game again.
I didn't know if we had a commercial break. Maurice, on your board, what for you was a critical moment in this game? I think it came when Fabi played the move rook on f8 to c8.
Well, you channel my thoughts as well.
Okay, sorry.
That's where I thought the critical moment was as well in this game, because right here he showed that he knew his stuff when he played this move instead of playing c5 first. Actually, it's a sort of a logical move, doesn't require any additional tactical nuances because he knows he's going to play it with protection, and there's no tactics you have to play for as sacrificing this pawn or playing it first and then putting the rook behind. So by playing this move, you force white to make a committal move. The rook leaving and going to the c line weakens that a pawn, so that was a little bit of a concession for white. And what else can white do? White could also play, according to the engine, the move b3, maybe the most solid move as it guards this a pawn as well. And after this move takes the knight to b4, the rook can move to d2. The problem is after rook to c5, white has a pure pawn structure, maybe even slightly better coordination, in fact, as black's pieces are sort of randomly placed in this position. But what to make of it? Where do you go? Your knight can't go anywhere.
Knight d4 looks like a very concrete move.
Right, but now you run into rook d8, and you're just pinned along the d line.
Rook d1.
And if you make this move, then suddenly the bishop just does a little ninja backstep, and now black is fine, and you don't have any tactics that are real. Now, the engine does think that if you keep going with a move, maybe like bishop, maybe even f4, that's an interesting move. f4, I like. This actually contains a little bit of something, trying to guard the e5 square, maybe get your pawn pushes and hope that black can't neutralize the edge very easily.
It feels cohesive.
That is bringing the pieces together and harmonizing the pawn structure with the bishop. And still the engines say 000, but the reality is you do have a little bit of a position to play, to at least play.
Right.
You can make moves without the position liquidating itself very quickly on the queen side. You still have some stuff on the board, but no edge for white that black has to be worried about.
So that rook on a1 to c1 move.
Probably was the move, the culprit that allowed the tactical
and
opportunities.
With c5 and
knight
knight b4. But that was incredibly precise play by Fabiano to neutralize what optically looks pretty good for white.
Well, you know, white has this e4 push that usually is stronger with queens on the board. Right? The end game is not something that black is that afraid of when you have a pawn center.
Right.
Black has less pieces on the board, so space doesn't matter as much. Of course, it still matters, but it doesn't matter as much. So this e4 push looks like a great idea, but the reality of this knight b4 and something landing on d3 or the tactics on a2 plus c5 liquidating your position. And by the way, e4 might look like space temporarily. When you start looking at your bishop, you're saying, what's my pawn doing on e4?
Right.
And if the pawn goes to e5 after it goes to e4, then you weaken the d5 square permanently as well. And an e5 pawn is really about attacking than it is trying to get space in an endgame. So that, remember we saw the game, was it Mamedyarov against MVL? Mamedyarov against MVL when he tried to be aggressive with this e4, e5 idea and ended up with a bad pawn structure that MVL could have exploited. You can take a look at that endgame where I think, what was the mistake he made? MVL played F3 instead of the move A5, which would have been tremendous. So take a look at that game from an instructional standpoint. I think it was even the same material distribution of pieces, if I remember correctly. But it was 2 rooks, bishop, and knight as well, against 2 rooks, bishop, and knight, if I remember correctly. Anyway, check that out. The way pushing pawns and getting some space doesn't necessarily mean anything in the end game. You can get exploited. So that was the critical moment to me. I agree with you.
And let's take a look at our standings and what we're playing for here. Yes, we are in the playoffs for the spots in the Grand Chess Tour final in London. We have 3 places already set. Nakamura in first, Levon in second, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in third, and finally, a battle of the Americans for that 4th spot. The interesting thing is, no matter what, the semifinals with Nakamura and the 4th player will be an All-American battle. $300,000 in the prize fund for the final in London, including $120K for first place and a minimum of $40K for qualifying. So a lot at stake here, Yaz, and also just this wonderful title of being the Grand Chess Tour champion. So
very prestigious indeed, and that's what it's all about too. But that's a very nice payday, $300,000 in prizes. So the winner of this match is guaranteed $40,000, but more importantly, a trip to London where the potential is for $120,000.
After our first game, we are at a standstill, a draw, but Fabiano with the white pieces. I think he's going to go hard, guys, because he knows this is a clear shot. Finish it. It's been an exhausting few weeks here in St. Louis, and I think the plus side of getting white in the second game is you have this chance to just get it done without giving them a chance to be like super wild with the black pieces. So Wesley tried his best with white, didn't work out. Now it's Fabi's turn.
And that's exactly what it is. And again, if that game is a draw, then we're going to go to the blitz games, and they'll pair up for at least 3 pairs of blitz games to try to decide the 4th place position, the playoff.
That's right. And I think that Fabi is going to play very aggressively in this game.
Really? You have... You're feeling
I feel like
madness here. Where do you think he's going? E4?
Yeah.
Then you got to deal with the Berlin. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to deal with the Berlin?
Yeah, that's true. You mean it's hard to get aggressive after E4 unless you play something crazy like a gambit.
The King's Gambit, a Scotch opening.
Because
I understand aggression.
Joko piano is actually not that aggressive, right? It's a little quieter.
It's being tamed, right? And what if Wesley actually did something really crazy and played the Petrov against? I mean, played the Petrov against.
I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, we should note that although Fabiano is not known as a blitz specialist, and I just looked up the live rankings, he's number 19 in the world in blitz.
And Wesley?
But Wesley is not known as a blitz specialist either. Wesley's rapid rating has him at number 3 in the world.
Oof.
3 behind only Carlsen and Nakamura. So he's number 3 in the world. We have Fabi at number 12 in the world in rapid. But in blitz, although Fabi's number 19 in the world, Wesley is only number 17 in the world. They're very close. So it's not as though Fabi loses, only draws this and thinks, oh my God, I'm going against a speed demon right now. He'll be going against someone who's fairly his equal.
I think he's blitz. Confident that he'll be fine in the blitz.
But
I think
look at that blitz.
Well,
first of all, the rapid record is terrible.
The rapid record is awful.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yes.
5 out of 6.
But all chess players at this level think that, and I think it, particularly in the case of Fabi, shows a lot of range in blitz. He can play really, really badly, especially if he gets off to a bad start, or he can play absolutely brilliantly like we saw last year in the showdown against Grishuk. So I'm sure he assumes that it's going to be the good Fabi, not the bad Fabi.
He might hope for that. But you can hope for that, but we've seen the bad Fabi a lot.
Yeah, but we'll contrast that with Wesley, who always seems to me to be the guy on an even keel. He always seems to play consistently good. He doesn't really have those huge
Let me ask you, in the events that he won in Leuven.
In Leuven, he won. He was good in Paris.
He was, he was great in rapid.
Right.
I mean, great.
Good point. I know where you're going.
But he was not great in blitz.
Right.
And those guys hunted him down quickly. Nakamura, Karyakin, they came after him all guns blazing. And then that really bit him in Paris, where again he was great in rapid, and they just overtook him like thoroughbreds. And he did not play well at all. And then we came here to St. Louis, and he didn't show anything here either. So the blitz, don't overrate his blitz. That's why he's number 17. If he were a bit better in blitz, he would have won both Leuven and Paris. But he couldn't keep that lead. And also, by the way, and he also lost that lead against Magnus. Yeah. Was it last year's Leuven? He also lost his rapid lead. Magnus caught him on the first day and then ran away with it. So Wesley has not shown any great powers in blitz other than that one eternal blitz game.
The bottom line is they're both phenomenal, and we're going to take a few-minute break, and we'll be back for the second rapid game.
Absolutely.
Be surprised. Be intrigued. Be delighted. The World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis is nothing you'd expect and everything you love. 3 galleries highlight the history, culture, and creativity behind the game. Explore chess in ways you never imagined. It's a one-of-a-kind cultural institution where rare artifacts and world-class art play together. The World Chess Hall of Fame. Mind, art, experience.
St. Louis University is celebrating its 200th anniversary. Offering world-class education in the heart of St. Louis, SLU attracts students and professors from around the globe. In 2015, SLU partnered with the St. Louis Chess Club to start a top-tiered collegiate chess team. On the very first year of the team's inception, SLU obtained second-best university at the Pan American Intercollegiate Chess Championships. Higher purpose, greater good. St. Louis University.
Hello and welcome back to the Grand Chess Tour playoffs for the fourth coveted spot to the final in London. And as we see, the first game was a draw between Fabiano Caruana and Wesley. So Olympic teammates as well as rivals now for that fourth spot, where the winner is going to play against another American Olympic teammate, Hikaru Nakamura.
In London in the semifinals. And there you have the first draw. You said at the end, Jennifer, it's all about aggression, and you want Fabi to bring it. You're all about E2, E4.
Something with E2, E4,
but not
and F4. But he's played
and D4.
Well, D4 is good too. Let's just see how he plays this. There's so many aggressive lines to play against the Nimzo.
Absolutely.
I was told, by the way, that
G3 Nimzo.
There was an override of the break. At the break, instead of giving 10 minutes, they said, let's just keep it at 2 and keep it clean and start at the top of the hour instead of the 10-minute break. So that's why they took a little bit longer break than we anticipated.
That's all right.
And you'll recall that amazing game where Fabiano castled queenside. With
not
this,
on the agenda today.
Not on this game. Wow, the players are really blitzing. Remember, it's a 25-minute game, guys. And look
with a
at
10-second delay, yes.
Doesn't this look familiar?
Slightly.
They're right. They heard me saying this is a difficult opening to meet, yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, change with queen to C2.
Knight to D5 and queen to C2. Well, remember, this was where Wesley had put his knight on A3 in that previous game. Very quickly, bishop B4 to E7.
Anything you can do, I can do better. That's what Fabi is saying to Wesley right now.
Exactly.
I think this is the kind of position that Fabiano wants to see, though. Something sharp, something that could maintain some space, lots of pieces on the board. Bishop to D7 played now by black.
It's about the C4 pawn, too. Is Fabi going to play a variation with E4 and basically say, I'm not going to try to win this pawn back? Or is he going to play in a Catalan kind of style with knight to E5? But the move bishop D7.
We want to see, oh, he did it. I was going to say, we want to see E4 because that's just flavorful as your board just went on the fritz after that kind of aggressive move. E4, plunking it down, attacking that knight, willingly giving the chance for black to maintain that pawn on C4 for some time. If he now plays the move knight from D, the knight is being attacked right now, plays it to B4, chasing the queen, he can then transit it to the D3 square in the heart of white's position. I can show you that line here. After E4, the possibility of knight to B4, queen E2, and knight to D3. We're talking about knights being entrenched in the position. This is not one of those, as this knight can be booted. Moves like B3 could happen, challenging this knight, but it's still there and trying to create some hay for the moment at least. So we'll see what Wesley does in the actual game, as he still has not moved. E4 is definitely throwing down the gauntlet. Let's go. We're trying to win in this round. No blitz for you.
I said that I thought he would play E4, yes.
Yes.
I was just slightly wrong about the move order.
It was a delay.
Knight B4 is there on the board.
Whoa, queen to D2, not queen to E2.
An immediate queen D2 from Fabi. So what's the deal here, Yez? After knight D3, what is the difference of having the queen on D2? Because I was actually going to say queen on E2, then play bishop E3 to greedily hold on to all the bishops. But maybe he wants to play for bishop F1.
Wait, guys, you have the wrong board position. That's the wrong board position. He used the other knight to B4.
You're right.
There's a knight that's currently hanging on D5. So,
so he played, that makes sense.
The sharper, he one-upped Fabi. Fabi played this very sharp E4, and he said, I'm going to use the other knight. So queen D2 was played for a reason, because he always had this knight C3 out of it, and then putting his knight on D3. And if he cements all of that, then white will have some difficulty.
Well, so the idea now is that after knight takes C3, we have a choice, and we can take with the queen instead of the pawn.
Sure he wants to take with the queen.
Indeed, because now if the knight comes to D3, we can rescue our bishop.
Or just capture our pawn back, and then we're kind of a
That is correct. That's why the queen went to D2.
I got you. Okay, yeah, we definitely played the wrong knight.
We went natural. You went natural with the other knight, but he played this move, and kudos to Fabi, as he surprised Wesley, it looks like, by playing this move, queen d2, which normally you don't play because you're blocking that bishop on c1 from coming into the game on that diagonal. Yeah. But it's very specific. Fabio understood he needs to guard that knight with his queen so he can play queen takes on c3. It looks like Wesley did not expect that.
Let's get greedy and play knight b6, guys. No knight takes c3, acquiescing to giving up the c4 pawn.
Yeah, but he was planning. He wasn't.
If you were gonna,
he wasn't going to lose his pawn anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm saying maybe you want to take and play b5?
Yeah, there are two ways of playing greedy, right? Yeah, I can defend the pawn on b5 with defend the pawn on c4.
Yeah, so many ways to be greedy and overspend, so only a few ways to be frugal.
And knight b6 was played at 95 instantly on the board.
He likes your greedy approach, which was to play knight to b6, defending the pawn. And again, with the 10-second delay, nobody's using it. Knight e5, spanked it down quickly.
And bishop f1 is coming. That's another way to recoup the pawn, although I'm not sure if he really cares about taking the pawn immediately. What do you think, Yaz?
Well, knight e5, the benefit, in my view, is you're just playing to prevent knight to d3. So how about bishop f6?
Also, there's the hit on the d7 bishop, that you release this diagonal as well so that you can push your pawn up to e5 and get your bishop in with some action. So there's that release.
Knight takes e5. That's a tempo. Opening up your bishop, the bishop. But didn't we see this in the game between Shaq? Mamidarov was white and Fabi was black, where they got a position, I don't know, similar to this. Fabi got the d5 square and weak pawns, but that game ended in a hard-fought draw in the Sinquefield Cup.
And we did see Fabi sink in with this move, knight to e5. So after bishop
Wesley
f6...
has gone into the tank.
Now, bishop f6, though, I feel like
Well, the very greedy is just to boot the knight right away, right? Just, okay, challenge the knight and say, where are you going? Ooh. If you go back, well, why did you play knight e5?
No, I guess you're going to take it at this point, yeah.
And it takes, and at the moment, black is holding on to his extra pawn. There are potential issues with bishop h3 and d5 now that you've played f6.
Well, this is what we want, Yaz. This is a very rich game.
Exactly.
So there's immediate bishop h3. Are you looking at the immediate bishop h3, or that just seems too artificial to you?
I'm not sure.
It does look artificial.
You could now go into those lines where, the queen would have been on e2, the knight would have been on d3.
b3 is well met by knight takes c1.
Oops, sorry. I'm trying to grab the bishop.
So you're trying to play bishop e3
so that I can
set up b3.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. So a couple of... very important choices.
I like the bishop f6 line better, though, because
it seems
f6,
more forcing.
Yeah, it looks so weakening. But maybe greed is a good strategy when you're trying to go for the win and just avoid blitz, get to London, right?
Absolutely.
Wesley's got that on his mind as well.
Right. And Maurice, when we were on our break, we were talking about the very, very small differences of the rating of the players in blitz, which was just fractions.
About 3 points, a little over 3 points.
But in rapid, that was where we saw an edge.
A solid 50-plus points in rapid for Wesley. In rapid, yes, for Wesley. Wesley has shown himself and performed extraordinarily well in rapid. And he just played knight c6, and instantly Fabiano took on c6 with no thought. It's just amazing. He already knew this is what he wanted to do. And after bishop takes, he's moved his queen to c2, and all the dynamics in this position, threats of d5 may be possible. Also just preparing to bring his bishop out. And yes, you're up a pawn, but this knight on b6, yes, you're up, but this knight is very unsafe, or I should say unhappy even, this knight sitting here, because it's all about guarding the pawn, and white has no interest in getting this pawn back. White's going to try to create some energy on this side of the board. f4 looks a little bit too ambitious, but he'll be able to bring his pieces out and say, yes, you're up the pawn, but you're just going to leave this over here, and I'm going to use all my pieces to see what I can do on this side of the board. So sharp play here for an intuitive play. Whose clock? Look at the clocks. You're the person in rapid. That's so good. Look at the clock times.
And F5 has been great.
He's got 25 minutes after Queen C2, and F5, super sharp move.
Whoa.
meeting fire with force. This
Fire
move.
with fire, yeah.
But is it weakening? Does it weaken squares in black's position? Certainly that E5 square looks scrumptious.
Certainly the move D5
How
must be calculated. But instead we find the move
instantly.
A4, just trying to dislodge that knight because it would be woefully voided of squares after A5, knight moves, then D5.
But critically,
right?
Jen, the point of F5 is to grab that D5 square for the knight. We talked about that knight being misplaced. He's trying to grab the square for the knight with this move.
But why does A4 help after A5? It really begs the question, right? A4, now A5.
Well, you better be ready for something like D5 happening.
Right,
I just feel
right.
like I don't know what's going on in this position.
Yeah, I was looking at D5, the
There's some
previous move.
explosions.
I was wondering how the A4, A5
And he took
exchange
immediately
helped.
on this square.
He immediately took on E4, thinking about what you were saying, Maurice, about now how A5 can be met by knight D5.
I'd play A5 anyway. You just feels like natural
But
flow.
aren't you driving the knight to a stronger square?
So you want to
son?
just start with bishop takes E4 potentially?
Knight takes?
You want to start with knight takes.
I'm not that anxious to force the trade of my light square bishops. Is this pawn sacrifice justified, Maurice?
It's possible, but the move A5 will happen in that position. And you can play A5 instead. Actually, the engines don't like this at all because of the response A5 by black now. So the timing is an issue. It looks like the correct move is to play A5 in this moment after A4, FE4. Play A5, knight D5, and then knight takes on E4. And now this pawn has been isolated. This pawn, and you'll win it back. Now, whether or not you have an edge here, I used to play the French, the exchange French, and Joel Benjamin, Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, who you know very well, Yaz,
Sure.
been a colleague for so many decades, he showed me that even though he had a weak E6 pawn, the isolated D pawn was a problem when it gets blockaded, and that these weaknesses balanced each other out if black gets enough dynamism. So when I see this, I remember the spanking he gave me and a lesson in this line. So, but this is a slightly different position, a very different position, because I got it out of an exchange French and it didn't have a fianchetto bishop. But if Fabi can win his pawn back, it looks like eventually in this position, and then look to see if he can get something going on this line as well. So this will be double-edged. A big decision for him right now to play the move A5 or to take on E4 immediately. And it looks like he's investing the time in the position to try to figure out which one should he do, as he has a really nice edge on the clock right now. 5 minutes just passed. He used to have 5 minutes, a little under 5 minutes right now. Big decision in the game. Drive the knight to the middle. That feels counterintuitive. Or to take on E4, and he's taking with a bishop on E4, third choice in the position. And here we go.
Well, he's hitting the pawn on H7, which suggests that black should capture. And if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, Fabi is planning to recapture on E4 with his queen and eyeball two pawns, the E6 and B7 pawn.
And that's
We
right.
do
That's
have
exactly
bishop
what
takes.
happened. Bishop E4, Queen E4. Hoping that you won't have time for that A5 move. So
I'm guessing queen
Yeah, you
D7.
got to defend the E6 pawn. That's too strong,
and
right?
if I just equalize the pawns now with queen takes B7, well, the structure is bad for everybody.
Right.
Neither side.
And nobody's
side
happy
have.
about
And
their
he-
structures anymore.
Those pawns are so separated on both sides. The C pawns are doubled. Certainly, the E pawn is weak. White has an isolated D pawn, a backward B pawn on an open file, no
And
less.
now D5, you have to reckon with the reply of Bishop C5, as we did use the D rook to. We used the F rook to play D1, so F2 could become a potential weakness, right?
Absolutely.
So this juicy looking D5 move, you got to reckon with Bishop C5, which could
Right.
be an irritant for sure.
Yeah, that could really chill the attacking ambitions in a big way.
Can we point out also Queen D7 on your board? Queen D7, Queen
Yes.
takes B7. The move Rook A B8 is
Yes.
very sneaky. Don't go pawn grabbing on A7
Because?
and letting your queen get out of there on Queen D7, because you could find yourself in a world of hurt with that move. Also, Knight D5 was a strong move as well, clearing the open file for the rook and preparing some trappy business with that queen as two rooks prepare to go A and B against the queen.
Yeah, I think after rook b8, I'd have to withdraw the queen Maurice.
Yeah,
And
but now
then you're
knight
just saying,
d5.
Knight d5, and you've got your rook.
And you've got everything. Black has
Nicely.
no danger here. That c-pawn acting as a restraining force.
And queen d7 was Wesley's choice.
Definitely.
And I think Fabi probably saw this far and thought this was good, and now realizes that this is not that great for white. He should have played sharper with a5, and this line.
I didn't like bishop e4.
Bishop e4 was
It just
not great.
Didn't feel like it had enough snap, crackle, and pop.
I think he saw the initiative with bishop e4. I'm flowing. If he takes, I play queen takes. I'm flowing.
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
gotten here, he's looking at it and saying,
Why is
wait,
this so good?
I don't really care about the b7 pawn.
That's
And usually,
right.
we don't care about those kind of pawns, trying to get into the position and giving the opponent a chance to make a couple of moves and get some dynamic play. You're not even winning a pawn when you take on b7.
You're just restoring material quality.
Definitely not worth it. So I think he played that bishop e4 move in haste, thinking that it would be a good idea, and now he's regretting it as he's got to look for moves. Well, black's hyper solid everywhere.
And
I
as
I suspect he's not taking on b7.
And as Jennifer mentioned, when you play a move like d5, which is ultra aggressive, you're dreaming of all kinds of initiatives. You got to be very, very mindful, very mindful that that rook is suddenly a potent attacker on the f line. So d5 does. I feel like suddenly Fabi better start thinking equality.
And he did. He played d5 in this position. That's a liquidating move.
Yeah, no, that's basically saying, look, I'm kind of looking to make equality
Yes.
out of this mess.
He got it.
I've
He got the
created.
memo that
yeah.
what he did was not right. Bishop takes on e4 was a real error for white, in fact. The third move we mentioned, but it did not. It did too much in terms of going after the attack, allowing the liquidation, and black just absorbed the energy and said, go right ahead. I'm going to get more than you are as you try to grab your pawn.
And how does this liquidate everything? Because it is,
I'm
we are
not
still down a
sure.
pawn, right? So
Yes.
just take on d5 as black, and can you show me the line?
Well, I'm actually thinking there's three moves, Jen. I'm thinking bishop c5 is a move. I'm thinking rook on a8 to d8 is a move. And I'm thinking about liquidation as well. He
But
did
e takes
shows.
d5 was played.
He
Knight
did
takes
cha-
d5, of course,
yes.
immediately. from
Knight takes
Bobby.
d5, very quickly played.
And he's hoping to trade off knights and then take the c pawn.
Let's just go with the line. Knight takes d5, rook takes d5, queen c6. Don't take my bishop. Don't take my bishop. The rook needs protection.
Yeah, and if you get to play in, if you get to move c3 in, for instance, liquidating that pawn, white's going to be in serious trouble.
Well, never mind that. I'm thinking I'll put my bishop on the long diagonal. I'll take the pawn on b2, and then I'll play c3. And it's a passer.
And by the way, rook takes d5 is on the board as Wesley decides where to put his queen. But after
I think queen
c6,
c6 is super suggestive.
I mean, is
Keep
it so
your
bad to
extra
play a move
pawn.
like? So suppose we wanted to bail out with a move like rook e5.
I think rook e5 is an excellent move to try to bail out. I'm not 100% sure you do get away unscathed. Oh, sorry,
See,
that's a
there's-
check. Ooh.
Yeah.
I have to be watchful. I was thinking that you would take
Take
my
on
queen.
c6 and you'd have an in-betweener.
I'd have as the old Zwischenzug. No, I think rook e5 is an excellent attempt to bail out and say, okay, he's played rook d4, somewhat
Is
similar.
that a similar point, though? Because now you're threatening rook takes c4, you're renewing the threat of queen takes e7.
And let's see bishop c5
But
again.
now okay, so now
You'll
it's same
take?
idea, queen takes c6, pawn takes c6, rook takes c4. I might want to watch out if bishop takes f2, or is this okay? Just king g2 and there's going to be a liquidation.
Well, but it's an extra pawn
But
still for black.
Bishop f4. Shouldn't that
Bishop
do,
f4 doesn't quite do the trick.
doesn't do the trick yet because you have this in-between move, bishop d4, hitting me on b2.
And watch out, it's
any
not.
And you have no better than what you just did, by the way.
Okay.
I was thinking rook e, in
You like
hindsight,
mine was
maybe
better.
rook e5 was better because rook d4,
Now, rook e5.
rook d4, bishop c5. What exactly is Fabi doing to earn material equality? It looks like queen c6 is box, forced.
It's been played. I mean, queen
Oh.
c6 now, you mean, for white. Sorry. Queen
Yes.
c6, yes.
B takes c6. Now, you could pause and play rook f4, but then I'll play rook b8. So let's just look at this line again. It still looks like black has the pull.
Let's see if
Fabi just got up from
What about
the board.
You want to go
I was
back?
thinking about bishop g5 in that
Again,
position, threatening bishop e7 and rook f1.
This is the current position Wesley Soto play. We're anticipating bishop c5 as our main line. And sorry,
and then I was
what was it,
thinking after
Jen?
rook c4, bishop f2, king g2.
Yes.
In this line, after c5,
Yes.
maybe something besides bishop f4.
But it's
Do-
very easy for black to play. His next moves are bishop d4, threatening rook f2, rook on a8 to b8, and you want to call it a half a pawn? It's my half a
Okay,
pawn.
now I just want you to look at this position.
Yeah.
It's such a deep move to find, and bishop c5 is about to land on the board. It looks like
You know it
the
is,
angle of
and
his piece.
there it goes.
There's a deep move in this position, guys.
I see it on your board. I go, no.
Oh, you looked already.
I
It's too
did.
bad.
I looked over
It's too
there.
bad. I wanted to challenge you to find it.
Yeah.
The problem of f2, the problem with bishop d4 is you want to play b4, but you got this rook f2 check coming. So how do you guard against all of that? You play the
Both.
amazing rook to a2.
Threatening b4.
Threatening b4, attacking that bishop on f2, guarding that square as well. So when bishop d4 lands, now you can play b4. Suddenly you have this lateral protection on the f2 square. There's no hit to the rook on a1, and you're threatening the pawn on c5, undermining the bishop on d4 all at once. Rook a2 is world class. Yes, indeed.
very-
The engine did point this out, and we'll see whether or not Fabi finds this sequence, because that's just a
very
beautiful
visual.
defensive move. That's the kind of one you could put in a book on defensive moves. What do you play now as white? And that kind of move to find. It's not a sexy mate in three where you sack your queen,
Right.
but that's the kind of move that the top players will find and say, this is why we're super GMs.
Well, this is what we've been talking about throughout the Sinquefield Cup, the extraordinary defensive techniques of the players. And moves like rook a2, the computer will be training them to find that unusual move. And that does look like it will give equality.
Note that Fabi hasn't played very quickly, though. It's not clear that he sees it yet.
Well, rook a2 is a hidden defensive gem, let's be clear.
That's an all-star move. He takes on c4, allows bishop f2, and he might be starting to look at the position. He might have evaluated it correctly as fine for himself, but hasn't actually found the moves to justify that. His positional intuition says, you know, that double c pawn, I'm just dropping f2, no big deal. I should be able to find a move. In fact, he might have even seen the bishop f4 move and thought that solved the problem in this position. And
Like
then only
Jennifer.
after looking at the move bishop d4 is he going, wait, this is harder than I thought.
Right. He may have felt like Jennifer that bishop f4, what's the problem? Everything's copacetic. But until you see bishop d4, rook b8, and now looking at, and he has played rook takes c4, and the players are speeding up to this critical position. Will, after the move c6, c5, will Fabi play rook 8, find rook a2? Because that's just a beautiful defensive move.
Look at the contrasting demeanors, Yaz. Fabi looks so much more intense, and
we
Wesley
do have
we are.
C5.
so relaxed.
The mystery
is
will
about
it
to be
resolved?
solved.
Will he find rook to a2? Magnificent move, just another level as it resolves all his problems in one move, rook a2. And it's the only move, by the way, that does that.
To
Everything else,
equalize. Everything else is worse for white.
which shows that he came into this line intuitively. He did not see rook a2 in advance. He came into this line intuitively, feeling that he should be okay. And it's now that he understands this is a critical moment in the game. You talk about knowing when critical moments arise and to be able to judge that I need to think right now so that the guy doesn't get anything. This is the moment for him to look and see if he can find something. And his spidey sense is telling him, this is right now. I don't want to play a bad move because black is suddenly up a pawn with the move bishop d4. That bishop's going to be a beast. Rook f2 coming in. Other rook coming to the b line. Can't develop your bishop. I need a move. And you see he's looking furiously right now trying to figure out what's the answer.
Yeah. This was a very beautiful quote by Boris Spassky. Much like to the players of today, the world champion was somehow just a little bit ahead of his peers. And Boris was asked what made him better than his peers. And he said, the only advantage I have over my colleagues is I have an incredible intuition about the critical moments. I use my time during the critical moments, and my opponents sometimes just fritter away time in positions that are not key. This is a key moment. If Fabi finds rook A2, which is a very difficult, unusual defensive resource, you know, you just got to tip your hat and say, these guys are really good.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's still
These guys are
good even if he
good.
doesn't find it.
Yeah.
But it is a kind of move that says
That's extra special.
that says amazing written all over it.
Right.
And it
He
looks
is
you
thinking
could
into thought. 'Cause
Yes.
He notices that
He
bishop
knows it's a
F4,
moment.
bishop D4.
Yeah, this is the critical moment. This is key.
I don't think he sees it even now. I think it's the kind of thing you're looking and your brain is going circle, circle, and then when you find it, you go, that's it.
Doesn't mean there's a lot.
And then you just play it. But he feels it. You could tell.
That's
It's
it, the feeling.
the feeling is there. There's something just screaming somewhere in the depths, recesses of his mind. Something is here. Right now I have to find a move. And you see how much time he's invested to find this kind of move that. And also, by the way, when you look at moves with an engine, you know, we're sitting back, you're at home, you're looking at it, and you see the move rook A2, you think, oh, rook A2, okay, that solves all the problems. You will not see that move if I take the engine away from you.
Exactly.
That's a hidden gem in the position. Those are moves that even super GMs find very difficult to see. You just won't see hidden moves, especially the discovery on the F2 square.
That's why you sometimes want to look at chess, especially these top games, without an engine when you're watching major events.
Absolutely.
The best time to use an engine is after you've played a game, you've sweated it out, and then afterwards you can compare, especially if you don't have a coach.
All your fears, whether the sacrifice would have worked. But I mean, from this position, every training that you may have put yourself under, it would tell you, develop your bishop, get your pieces out, win back the pawn. You know,
exactly. Bishop F4 looks like such a multi-purpose move.
Yeah,
we attack C7, we attack F2, and we develop our rook. So
develop our bishop and open up for
not playing this
rook.
tri-purpose move.
Yeah.
It's like really difficult to do.
It's
Yeah.
incredible, right? Because he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
You might think, let me play bishop F4 and think about the next move.
You play bishop F4 in a bullet game without any
No
hesitation.
question. It's the right. It's
Right.
Just, it just
Of
looks like
course.
the right move.
Right.
Rook
Three
A2
things is
is
pretty cool.
deep. Rook A2 is so deep. So incredible.
Rook A2 does a few things
Beautiful
as well.
move.
Protects B2, threatens B4. But of
protects
course
F2.
Yes,
of course
that's
it's a
the
Gets
key.
off the long diagonal.
protects and potentially attacks F2 indeed. Yes, controls that square and prepares to play B4, developing the bishop potentially in a different way. But yes, when to think hard. This is actually a topic of my TEDx talk, and it's insane that as soon as you said that, you called it. That Fabi is sinking into a deep thought for the first. I think this is his deepest tank of the game.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that
He's been on it for over 5
intuitive-
minutes.
Yeah, his spidey sense is saying,
Yes,
uh-oh.
4 minutes and counting now.
Uh-oh. There's some real danger in this position. I have to be careful. I need a really good move. Bishop F4, you play in bullet game, but he's saying after bishop F4, bishop D4, I'm clearly worse. I'm not going to try to save that ending. Where's my move? Where's my move? And again, you're absolutely right. When you're sitting there at home with an engine and it's informing you rook A2, 0, 0, 0, you think, okay, that's easy.
That's easy enough.
Well,
That's
because
easy.
you can't unsee moves. That's the thing.
No, but
It's like when you
it's-
see the answer to an
But
amazing
no,
study.
I don't agree with that only about unseeing the moves. I also think that people who work with engines have to know what hard moves look like.
Yes.
Right? I can see the move, rook A2, it solves all the problems, sure. But I know what a hard move looks like.
Yeah.
Rook A2 is not the kind of move you want to play. It's not natural
No.
at all. So you know, yeah, sure, the engine is just giving us this answer. But boy, if I was sitting in this position trying to find rook A2 myself, are you crazy? That's a deep move. I would not be looking in that direction only after I calculated bishop F4, worked out all the variations, and then start to wonder, is there something? I feel desperate. What can I do? You might start looking at all the moves. You don't find this move even after a long think, and Fabi's been at it now. That's just in this position. Don't forget, he spent some time even before he got
He's
to this
thinking
position.
for 6 minutes
6 minutes.
now.
And even before he played those couple of exchanges to get to this position, he was aware there was a position coming up. And here he is. And boy, hard at work. And we see there he's reaching for the queen side. One of them, is it going to be the bishop or the rook? And I don't think he sees it. Otherwise, rook A2 would have been on the board already.
I think you're right. That rook A.
Oh! Slam dunk, baby.
Okay.
That's world class. That's a
Okay.
world champion candidate if you've ever seen one. Rook
Okay.
A2 on the board. Double exclamation mark. Great find. Amazing find.
Tip of the hat. Big applause. Bravo. That is That's world class.
That's
and
the
in a
good
rapid
stuff.
chess.
Oh, man.
Oh.
That's the stuff that gives GMs goosebumps.
Wow.
Find a move like Rook A2 in that position. Amazing. Solving all the problems in one go. Leaning back now is Fabi, as Wesley's looking at this one. I don't know if Wesley had seen it, but he's going,
damn.
What? If he had seen it, it's like, yeah, he found it. That is a move that's shutting down everything in one go. Fantastic move.
Wow. I mean, what Wesley? You got to imagine Wesley sitting there and reeling back, and he's thinking, "Hey, I'm a pawn up, boy. I'm going to torture you for some time. Let's see what you got." Rook A2. Oh no!
Oh man!
No! Can't you just give me an extra pawn to work with? I'm not asking for much. Boy, let's just enjoy that video again in slow motion, because we were worried he was reaching for his bishop. Jennifer, he's
And
going for something on the queen's side.
Well, there was
What's
a
he gonna
6
do?
or 7 minute thing that preceded this
And
phenomenal
boom.
defensive creeping move.
Fantastic.
Rook A2.
Love it. Love it.
Laterally preparing to play B4
Before.
and defend and attack F2.
These guys are good. These guys are good.
They're pretty
scary.
good at chess, indeed. These gold
Wow.
medal Americans.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
when you play
a
moves
gold
like
medal
that one-
move. Yeah.
But that's why if you go over a game quickly, you miss this. You're like, oh, they're just playing a normal game.
That moment is just
moving
lost.
Moving these
Right.
pieces around.
I'm sorry,
What's
but
the
let
problem?
me also tell you.
Please.
You remember I told you about my friend Leon, how we had that one exercise where
Show me the move.
he played a game and he said,
Show me the mistake.
where's the mistake?
Right,
He
sorry.
just played over a game and we went through it, and then when he played this move F5, it was so anti-positional looking. I said, and this was between masters or
Right.
maybe even the GMs. This move was hyper aggressive, and I looked and I said, oh, that's the moment. And he smiled because I had guessed it right. When I go over games, a lot of times you'll go over a game and it's so boring. It's like, oh, it's all the stuff we've seen. Yeah, okay. And even if they sack a piece, it's like, oh yeah, you sacked, and there's a win of a pawn. Who cares? Right. But I relish those moments when somebody plays a move and you, even if you're going over fast, and you go, wait, what? What's this move about? And that move, Rook A2, will be one of those moments. I'd be going over the game and oh, what's this? Why did he have to play this move? And when you start looking at, because it's so unusual looking, you start looking at it and you go, wow, what if you tried something else and you realize this move is deep? And this is the one move you just put in your file. Let's record this. I want to have this, and especially for my students.
Yes.
What would you do right here? Those are the things the nuggets you look for, and just, like I said, gives you those goosebumps, give you a good feeling that you just learned something in a moment. And that Rook A2 is one of those moves that sets these guys apart. Somebody like Fabi, trying to become the champion of the world, has to find moves like that, and he invested his time, and you could see the effect it's had as well on Wesley.
You know, it's funny the contrast between these rook moves that we got so excited about. Rook takes F7 by Levon yesterday.
Oh, that was
the longest rook move, as opposed to the shortest rook move.
Yeah, this one is just as sweet, in my opinion. You're able to find these kinds of creepy, crawly moves, weird position, threaten to disco, everything. Just
because again,
good stuff.
Our training that we teach our students, as well as ourselves, develop your pieces, bring your, control the center. Even if you had played a move like Rook on A2 to A3 on the previous move, you could explain that to yourself. You could justify it. Your pawn on B2 is weak. Your Rook on A1 is passive. Bring your Rook up. Make it aggressive, centralize your Rook, but this move, Rook A2, is so contrary to so much of our training, and it's the perfect move. It fits so well. You've got to cover F2, the second rank. You're waiting that when the bishop does retreat to D4, you have the move B4, undermining the anchor, the support of the bishop. Your Rook is not under attack when the bishop retreats. It's like, all the boxes get
everything. You don't feel any danger anymore. Look at Fabi. He's leaned back. And if Wesley had seen the move, he didn't have a reply to it because he's now tanked for about 5 minutes on the clock. That's the effect of moves like that. It feels like somebody just drove to the hole and dunked on you. The fans are cheering, and you're like, oh, my goodness, what am I supposed to do as his time is ticking down? This could even turn the game around. This could be a game changer.
Let's make a suggestion.
Even though it's equal, by the way. Even though it's equal. This is the kind of move that could have an effect psychologically.
Okay. I'm in Wesley's shoes. I'm rocked back. Oh, he's played the move Bishop D4
just when I was B4 by Fabi.
Just when I was about to say, I'll try to turn the Rook against itself. I was thinking about the move Bishop E1, with the idea of rook f2 in case you capture my pawn, and I try to make the rook look silly on a2, but that wasn't played. Bishop d4.
Bishop d4 was played, and then of course the planned b4, disrupting the anchor
Came
of the bishop on
very,
c4.
very
Immediately,
quickly.
not even using the delay, by the way.
No.
And that is, I think that's a characteristic of a lot of really strong players, is that they go for a deep think and then sometimes instant moves after it, especially in
3,
rapid
4,
blitz.
5. Yeah, they've got their moves all prepared. They're ready to counter whatever their opponent
It shows a lot of confidence, right? Confidence to know when the moment is to think hard, but then also the confidence to just not recheck your analysis because you've been checking it on your opponent's time.
Indeed. Okay.
And Wesley's still fine. Let's not.
Of course, of course.
This move was a defensive move, not a winning move.
But it was a brilliant defensive
It was
move.
genius.
And now
Absolutely.
Fabi's also actually 5
So-
minutes ahead still because,
So-
of course, his 7-minute tank was replied to with a tank of Wesley's own. So
Right.
the big question for me is, are they going to get into big time pressure in this game, or are we going to see liquidation and blitz thereafter? What do you think, Gaz?
Yeah,
what do you,
well,
what do you say?
what do we got?
We got
about
7 minutes, 12.
10 and 7.
There's a
don't
book.
see-
There's a book that Yermolinsky wrote. Could you tell me the?
Yeah.
Was it the one about
it's-
trends?
Yeah, it was. It's
No,
about
no,
that.
the
but it's
strategies,
improvement.
modern chess.
No,
I thought it
let's
was
look it up.
something
Let's
with
find
chess
it.
improvement.
Somebody will
Yes,
let us
yes,
know.
yeah,
Something like that.
Chess-
But Yermolinsky wrote a
chess-
great book.
I loved it.
Yes, and he wrote this great book, and his point,
Yeah.
he talks about the trends in positions. He talks about how do you respond when
It is the road to chess improvement.
the road to
The road
chess
to chess
improvement. That's right.
That's right.
And he talks about how do you respond when things go up, down, stay the same. How are you feeling when you have a great position and suddenly that changes?
Right.
What is your psychological response to that? Not just the reality, objective reality of the moves on the chessboard. How do you react personally? And Wesley had this position where he had to feel very positive. He was forward thinking.
Exactly.
I'm going to get this guy. I'm coming after him. And then Fabi plays rook a2, and he is pushed back. And
Right.
suddenly he realizes, whoa, I don't have, and he might keep searching.
That
Where is
big
it? Where is it?
advantage.
Where is it? Where's my advantage? And you find out there is no advantage. Now how do you clean out your entire system and say, okay, I got it, it's equal, and just be totally flatline? Fabi has that amazing ability.
And this is it, though. He's
He's
just played rook
rook
on a to d8, anchoring the bishop because he lost the c5 anchor, and now he's just planning to gang up on this pawn, yes.
Yeah, he's
rook f5 could be played.
I think he
c6
played
first to
c7,
stop
c6.
But he's ready to play rook d5, rook f5, and gang up on the c pawn.
Well, let's see how it might go.
Well, that pawn
Jennifer.
is easy to defend.
Bishop
You should know.
f4, rook d5, bishop to d6. Talk about anchors away. Rook f5. So everybody's trained here, and guess what? Everybody's trained here too.
Actually,
It's a
could I play
standoff.
rook? Could I play rook to d2 in that position also? Am I wrong?
Yes.
Because
yes.
you can't take my pawn now. I win a piece.
Exactly. I would have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bishop
I
is
can't
hanging.
take the pawn because you would trade my rook and then capture the bishop, but I'd have to move the bishop.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
not worried about dropping my pawn in
Right.
in such a
Oh,
position.
oops.
So bishop f4 is on the board.
Bishop f4 is on the board. Okay. And Wesley put his rook on d8 for a reason, and I think you're right, Jennifer.
Also, I thought
that
there was a rook e2.
That he's done. That he's
that
done
you
what he
did-
had to do.
Yeah, well, he did it with the idea of playing rook d5 and chasing the c5 pawn. Sorry, Maurice.
I just saw another equalizing line with rook e2. I
Rook,
think.
you saw another equalizing line here?
Continue the game. No,
Okay,
continue the
sure.
game. Just takes this bishop at rook d5. Bishop d6. And rook e2 here.
Rook e2. So you're basically saying, I'm not worried. Take my pawn. I've got counterplay
Check,
downstairs.
check. And
Can we just
actually,
see that?
you still can't touch my pawn.
Why is that?
Oh, you could touch it in this time, but rook check.
Oh, I see. You're gonna get me from behind.
That's what I was hoping. Doesn't it
Rook-
work?
yeah.
I'm not, but the engine's saying it's equal here. Rook f5. Why aren't you losing a piece straight?
Maybe it says bishop takes d6 and My engine's
Oh.
off.
Yeah, your engine's. That looked like a,
I remember that
in
from
mind.
an
You got
earlier
the trick. Yeah.
broadcast.
All right, let me see what happens here. This rook to e2, and if you take my pawn, yeah, my engine says you lose.
Don't do that.
All right. Yeah, your engine's off. I was wondering what was going on. Where's the swing? Okay, but yes, this line does win a piece after all.
It was a perpetual.
There was a perpetual that wasn't there. It was like, okay, why is it still a draw? Why is it still
Okay,
a draw?
but Wesley played a different move.
He did not play rook
Instead of
d5.
playing rook d5, he's now put his rook on e8.
E8. So he's basically given up any attempts he may have entertained about winning that pawn on c5.
And the Indians don't like this move to rook to d2, and this is starting. This is the point we made. How would you respond when you have been rocked back? Would you find the right moves, the accurate moves in each and every position? And may I point out, look at the clock times. 11:26 for Fabi. You see Wesley move those chess pieces just now?
That's a little bit of an irritation. It's a tell.
It's a tell. I know that tell. When you're uncomfortable
Yes.
and your time's ticking down, you need things out your way.
Right.
And even if it was not even that close, you feel the pressure of those pieces that you capture. You say, let's just move this even further out my way. You might even throw them off the board.
Next up, Wesley's going to take a queen and put it right next to him.
Yeah,
just
that's
in case.
another
You know, we need to
nervous,
save that few seconds.
Exactly.
And only players know that feeling of the pieces bothering you, even though they're not that close.
Right.
And you just kind of
But
push them out the way.
Like in poker, a tell means something different for everyone. Sometimes the push the pieces aside means, hey, I'm about to get you.
Yeah, true. I saw that my understanding there was
D2 on the board.
nervousness. Nervousness was creeping in by
And
Wesley.
then rook d2, bishop f6 is on the board, guys.
And now rook d6 is a nice move.
I love that
Linear
move. Well, I mean, that pawn
the
on
same
c5
line.
that a moment ago we thought he was going to try to build up an attack against the pawn on
It's
c5.
all about that anchor.
Now it's, it's a good leverage there. He's using that c5 pawn as an anchor.
Because you never want to take on d6.
No,
Because then
and-
we have this gorgeous pass.
And
There
look
it
at that,
is.
rook d6.
With double the time
Ever
on the clock.
since rook
Ever since rook
A2.
a2. Rook a2 was a
Complete
punch.
change.
Complete change.
Yeah.
Total initiative shift.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Look at that clock tick down. Remember, he was down on time
Yeah.
at that 12-minute mark to 14. And since then, 9 minutes by Wesley to his 1.5 minutes. That rook a2 had that effect. And just simply so far has been a game changer. Wesley better start finding some moves
Yeah, what's
or
the
else.
answer, guys? Do we have to play rook c8?
Yeah, I'm
Ugh.
not a big fan of it, but sometimes you got
gotta
to
do
do what
it.
you got to do.
And that's what Wesley thought.
And I'm not. I am under
That's an ugly
no
rook.
circumstances trading rook takes d6 and allowing a pass pawn as powerful. So
The good
he's
news
played
is
rook
we can't play a move like rook b4 because of a bishop e7. So that's the good news.
Is it?
Well,
such a
I
good
love
news?
your good news.
Yeah, I mean, let me
A
question.
second ago, the guy was up a pawn and trying to win, and now he's begging not to get killed.
True, this could be an issue as
Okay,
well.
no,
but
I think you're right.
I'm
I
hanging
think
on.
I think the good news is that you're right. That
'Cause
bishop
we're-
e7, but it's not
No, but it's not-
happiness.
You're not
It's
impressed by my good news?
It's not extreme
What do
happiness.
you have, the bad news? you've got 4 minutes.
We got, that's the badness. Very good. And 9
Okay, let's
minutes
back
to
up.
4
Let's
minutes.
back up to the board
better.
position.
Let's try something better than rook b4.
You know, in such positions, sometimes you just let your opponent hang themselves. A move like a5, looking for another potential anchor.
Or h4 is
The
a very nice
problem-
move here as well.
The problem with if you just go for it right away.
Oh, you allow the guy to defend.
Yeah, he's ready with his defensive move.
No, squeeze
H4, yeah, exactly. Just improve the position.
And also
Patient.
allow on a
King to
check,
F3.
allow your h-pawn not to hang on any checks on e2. Your king just waltzes it. There, man, this guy's boss. This guy's
H4.
boss. He's finding some serious
Slow.
top-level moves. h4, stopping any g5, anything. Maybe push the pawn down the board. Make you play a move like h6, and if you do, I snap it with the bishop. Bishop takes h6. We'll be tacked
H5
h5
played.
on the board. That's a little tiny weakness.
Yeah, that does
Yeah.
feel like...
Tiny weakness.
feels like something we can play.
White's king is definitely going to be closer to the H pawn.
But the only
But it's
problem
the
here for
time.
white is that rook on c4, right?
Right.
It's kind of stuck because we can't play rook d4, we can't play rook b4 that easily.
but
E4 is
king
covered by the
F3?
king.
King f3 with
King
the rook
F3.
e4 ideas.
Yeah.
That was why I was reaching for the king. But I'm kind of, I'm leaning towards your rook b4, bishop e7.
Trying that line again.
Yeah.
Now that the position has a few different elements.
Yeah, just let me just show a little bit of why I might be attracted to this. Remember the game between Sergey and Magnus. Sergey. Magnus sacrificed. Yeah, Magnus sacrificed in exchange for a pawn and a bishop, and such ideas do get my attention.
I like that.
Yeah,
King f3
But
is
King F3
yeah,
is a...
King F3.
It's a
You know-
logical move.
But
It's a
you know
logical
what? It's not just because it's a logical move. It's because you're ahead on the clock,
Yeah.
and you can
Improve your position.
improve the position and allow your opponent to erode his, because he doesn't have a great position sitting in front of him. Now, he might find some good moves in response, great
Right.
defense, but he's under 5 minutes. Don't get near him on the clock.
Right.
That's key. Keep the lead. Make a quick move. If you're looking for a knockout blow, you could invest a lot of time on the clock, and it's not the position for the knockout blow. That's the problem. He's looking for it, and he might now be reinvesting time at a moment that's not critical.
Maurice, you just mentioned a really important point, and one of the most difficult points for grandmasters. When do you invest your time looking for a knockout blow, right? Like, wow, nobody taps you on your shoulder and says, now's the combinations, now's the combination. I start looking for knockout blows whenever I feel that my pieces are more active, that I have an advantage that I can absolutely understand and justify. So that's why I'm thinking rook b4, bishop e7, rook b7. If you don't take my rook, you know, I'm getting close to a knockout blow.
And King F3 played.
But he had to he had to stop himself, and he says, "Is there something there? Let me just double check, because I love that rook on d6. Is there something there?"
And
rook
rook
e1
E1.
immediately. By the way, wow. Okay. With this move, rook e1, I'm imagining that black is starting to think, okay, your king's a little bit vulnerable. Can I play moves like rook b8 and rook b3 check, sacrificing a pawn?
But isn't
for-
rook e4 what you wanted to do when you played this
I
king to
most
f3?
definitely did.
Because I want all my pieces to be more active than all of yours.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't forget, we can decide maybe to try to stick in bishop g5 at the right moment if we have enough activity.
True.
To then either force the favorable bishop trade or stick our rook on e7.
Okay, so let me give you a check and put my rook on, I don't know, a decent square.
And rook d7.
By the way, rook e4.
We're still
is
waiting.
about
He hasn't
to be
played yet. So rook d7 now.
So these double
Rook
rook endgames,
d7.
very rich. Remember the Levon Nakamura game? You can't play rook b8 because of the bishop on f4.
Yep.
I understand. I still wanted to do it.
You want to do it anyway. You
I
can't
didn't
do it,
want
but
you to
you
take my
wanna.
rook. I
No,
really
we like white there. We like white. No, rook
but-
e4 feels very.
But rook
There he
e4,
is. Every move is just end. You talking about endgame technique?
precision.
This guy's
You
a
just
beast.
like all his moves because he's playing your moves, Mari.
Well,
First of all,
he is
first
good.
of all,
He's a genius.
they're not all my moves. I got the help of the engine. There are a couple of moves that I've seen myself,
Right.
but most of them are the engines. Rook a2 was not my move. That was an engine move. So let's not get that twisted. But
Right.
Right now, the moves that he's playing, it just
Very
gives you
consistent.
the picture
He's
of
wonderful.
perfection in a rapid game.
It reminds you of Magnus, really. You mentioned Magnus
totally
earlier.
reminds me of Magnus here.
Playing an endgame that's pretty equal and just seeing what happens. Just
Right.
playing the best moves and saying, hey,
Well, I really didn't
this
like
game's
that.
going to go and keep going.
Didn't we say he's got to show what he can do in rapid?
Yes.
That's what we say. He's got to show, when I play rapid chess, I can play like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
The way Magnus shows all the time. You play moves like Rook A2 against Magnus, you're going to be okay. But you got to find all those moves because he's going to test you
Right.
in those situations. But if he can start showing this level of play, beautiful technique,
Consistent.
then we can say, Fabi's ready. He's ready now.
Right.
He's showing his stuff, and he's ready for the World Championship
And hey guys, we're
campaign.
headed to a double Rook Blitz game as Wesley is going under 3.5 minutes on the clock.
He feels this pressure. Look at this.
This is
Well,
not one of
Wesley
those-
understands. If he trades rooks, inviting White's king into the center of the board, there's this king f5, king g6 when things get really, really dicey around Black's king. What is this line, guys? Are we looking at something like this as a line of play. I mean, it's
Looks good.
You have to look at the forcing moves in such a situation.
Do we have to take on e4?
Well,
That's a critical.
You don't have to do anything, but you're going to
I like
suffer.
the rook
Well, you
B1.
have to do something.
Or maybe
And he's
rook
reaching
A1.
for his rook.
I like this
And he's played
because
rook
we're hitting the A
A1.
pawn. Just the simple fact that at least it's similar to the rook B1
But
move, except at least we
somebody
hit A4.
annoyed me with this move, rook d7. I won't mention any names, but that move, rook d7, stopped me from playing my desired rook b8, and I didn't like black's position.
Right, but that was with the rook on B1. At least now
Right.
on A1, we're stopping your
Okay.
rook from getting out of.
It's tethered for a moment.
So I better
but-
move my A pawn. I'm not playing rook A8, so let's play A5.
And if it's attacked,
Okay.
Or A6? Is it better to play A6?
no.
Or you just want to play rook A7? Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Rook A, attack it. What else? We don't need anything
just
else.
just a second,
Oh, you want to play
just a
bishop G5?
I'm thinking about bishop e5.
Rook
actually.
D7 on the board.
Rook d7. I'm just thinking about bishop e5. Probably this double rook ending. My king is a little bit too exposed. So, but that bishop on. Oh,
we do
he's
have some
played
moves, guys.
a4.
Yeah, you play rook D7, answered by a check, testing him right now.
I think
Okay,
that was
three check to start.
I think that was a good check. This king kind of bothered me as a potential attacker. So driving the king back is a good idea for black. Now,
It has been
here's the-
played, and it's back to that A pawn again.
Okay, well, if I have to play a6 and or a5 and rook a7, I mean, I've got to get some counterplay, don't I? Or
Because if I
what
play
does that
A5,
do?
if I play A5, rook A7, bishop C3, you just sink in with the rook E7, right? Although you're not
sorry.
attacking anything.
Placing the pawn on
So
A6.
A5,
A5.
A5, rook A7,
and bishop c3.
bishop C3. So rook E7 at the moment. Oh, do you have rook E3 or something?
No, there's
Rook
no
E7
there's no threat though. So
But
Yeah,
what about
exactly.
bishop E5? What about bishop E5? Sorry. What would
sorry,
you do?
Is
if
bishop
played
E5 a threat?
in this exact moment? Bishop e5.
Bishop E5 threatens to take on G7 with check.
Okay, I
Okay,
can't play rook
so
e8.
we probably like have to take you, right?
And if you do,
Absolutely.
I'm going to be hitting the world.
Yeah.
Do I get some
I can
counter
take
though?
A4,
Wait. Do I get some counter play
But
down?
to move
No,
to
but
the
I'm
game,
gonna win your G. Oh, you're gonna be able to win. Maybe I take on H5. Yeah, it's messy. Anyway, he played bishop D6 instead. More controlled chess.
After rook d7, did we see the move a5? We did. Or
We saw A5. Yeah, because I think
A5.
on A6 I can take on A6 and hitting your C6. So I'm gonna pick 2 off.
A5 is better
And
because
bishop
it's,
D6
it can
just-
be defended in these variations. Yeah. So bishop D6 and
I love
look at
these
this.
King
powerful-
H7.
Just
powerful
2 minutes.
post-up types of moves. That bishop on d6 is very impressive. King
Well,
h7.
it's also in the way a little bit, to tell you the truth. But it's about the clock now and keeping the pressure on with the clock as an issue. And now rook to A7, attacking the pawn. By the way, there could be some rook E6 tempo on your bishop in the
That's right.
future that you have to watch out for since
But
you're
we
pinned.
probably have to play bishop C3
Okay,
anyway.
so bishop C3
Play
on the
bishop
board.
C3.
But isn't bishop E5 a move? What happens on bishop E5?
It's similar to what we just looked at, except now H5 is hanging with check, right?
Absolutely.
So that seems even worse.
No, but now I'm worried about the pin, actually. What happens
The
there?
bishop e5, bishop
bishop
takes
E5, bishop
e5,
E5.
rook takes
No,
e5.
no. Bishop E5, rook E8. Could I see that? Quickly,
Bishop
bishop E5.
E5.
And if I play rook E8, is that a blunder because rook G7, check?
It's rook G7.
But now I can go to H6. And you're defended, but now we trade everything off. I pick off your A pawn.
And I'll pick up the c pawn.
That end game. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So that
definitely
one would be
white
tricky.
still
So we
for
would I
choice.
think we-
So bishop c3, bishop e5, very legit looking move. Looking
Looking at the clock's 4 minutes for Fabi, 2 minutes for Wesley.
and he's played king h3, by the way. By the immediate rook e3, while it pins, I have rook check as a way of escaping the pin. King h3 makes such ideas as rook e3 quite
And
possible.
rook A2,
He was afraid of that pin.
but also watch out for your king.
What happens
mating,
after rook C3?
mating ideas in there if you got to watch out for.
Oh, you mean like if I could do something like Ruro, I
didn't
have to be
see that
aware.
mate threat, but yes,
who's
I was worried
king?
about
You
a
were
rook
worried
showing
about
up.
Black's king.
I was worried. No,
I'm
I was worried
sorry.
about rook. No, I was worried about a rook showing up with that mating idea.
We've
But
got
you
moves,
just
guys.
pointed out that move.
We've got moves. What has been
No,
happening?
it's all that's happened.
Rook E4 and Rook A2.
Rook A2. That
Now
king,
Fabi's on move, going to 3.5 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm seeing your monitor there.
he's feeling that king being
that
a
was
little
it.
bit squeezed,
Yeah,
and he doesn't have an easy move. And now Bishop E5 is still on top, but
what about that move, Rook E3, Maurice? Or, by the way, how about even Rook C4 as a consideration? The bishop's tethered to the A.
Wait, what happened to Bishop E5? Why did we reject that?
No reasons.
Okay.
I'm just looking for something a little bit more nasty. I don't know. Rook C4. Where would Black go with his bishop? Give me your bishop. I'm dreaming that you give up the long diagonal. If you go Bishop B4, I want to repost my bishop.
oh, you don't want to hear this, Yaz.
Oh, what's that?
If you play Rook C4, Bishop F6,
Yes.
there's a vicious trap if you
I'm
decide
about
to
to fall
take
for
on
it.
A7.
No. I'm
Oh,
not
you're
going
going to do this. Okay.
No,
You
I was
wanted
going
to
to
take
go.
on A5.
I was going to.
I mean, if you
I was
take on
trying to get
A5,
my rook to the 7th rank.
same problem. Rook E8.
Right now.
Yes.
Rook E8.
Rook E8. That same idea I was telling you. I was worried about that king. Now the rook can go down, and you need to deal with this attack suddenly on your position.
Wow.
Play on both sides, guys. That's what happens in these double rook endgames. It's all about getting active, and we saw that Wesley assessed that earlier. That's why he struck out with rook E1 to A1.
And
look
this
at this, they both have 2 minutes on
major
the clock.
problem. This is where Magnus would look at the clock and go, yes, I got him. Because you went below on the clock. Fabi has to realize this moment is critical for him, or he could lose the game.
Now don't forget,
This is a
burning-
trend that
he's
he's burning
burning-
too
he-
much time, and he
has
did play
played
Rook
Rook
C4.
C4.
If Wesley finds this move, Bishop, wait a minute. There's also Rook
Because you see the
rook E8 now, but you got the bishop's hanging. Rook E2, we have G4, right?
not Rook E2, but Rook.
We've seen Bishop
E1.
B4, the move that I thought
Was
Wesley
terrible
had
after
to
Bishop
avoid.
E5.
The move Rook C4, the reason I'm attracted to that move is because I see this bishop floating in the air. I want it to get to declare itself, declare its diagonal.
That was a bad
And
move.
that-
And Rook F4 now, totally a different kind of chess position as the bishop is no longer guarding G7, and we'll have to spend a tempo to deal with that as Bishop E5 is under threat.
Why can't you
And
change
what
your
did he
mind?
do
Why can't you
after-
change your mind and play Bishop C3 now?
I think he should, actually.
Yeah, is there
I
Rook
would-
F5? Oh, there's Rook F5 could be annoying.
And he has
Bishop
changed
C3,
his mind.
Bishop C3, and then is Rook E5 an irritant, guys?
Rook F5 is very strong.
Yeah,
Yes.
because we've got Bishop F4 if you play King H6.
Yep, and Rook G5
Nice.
check is possible. You're dropping material here. That Bishop B4 was a serious mistake. But Fabiano has to now turn his brain away from rapid chess and start getting into blitz chess mode.
Right.
He must feel this as a blitz game, and he hasn't done it yet. Because a blitz game, you just play your instinctive move and go. And that's a skill you have to have, and he has not done it yet. Still looking for some kind of clear win. In fact, there is no clear win. You might win a pawn, but it's not going to be a mate. So that means you have to convert this, which means you'll need time on your clock.
Exactly. And he
He
has
didn't play
given up
Rook F5, he played Rook E7.
his attack against the A pawn.
Not a good
I don't
move.
like that move.
Not a good move.
Oh, my.
He was trying to stop Rook E8 counterplay, guys.
Yeah, but Rook F5
Exactly.
deals with all that.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if you
Rook
can take
F5
H pawn with check, your king goes to G4, and that's the end of the story.
Well, I was going to take on A4. Rook F5, Rook takes A4, give up my H pawn for the A pawn, and hope for the best. I still think that, White is really for choice. I'm not sure I understand. When he forced to move Bishop B4, couldn't he have played Bishop E5 at once?
Rook D8 played by Wesley. Do we have
Rook
another
G8 in
chance
that
to play
position,
Rook
yeah.
F5?
We can look at that afterwards.
Yeah. What
Rook
did
D8 played.
Rook David A? Gotcha.
Yeah, now that they're basically playing a blitz game, we should
That's
stay with
what
them.
they're in. They're
And they
in
have to
blitz
move.
mode.
Don't get under a minute. Play Rook F5, go. But he looks like he's scared of giving up his A pawn for this H pawn.
Right. He doesn't want to make that trade for some reason. I would make that trade believing that I can hunt down Black's king.
Yeah, you can trade rooks with trade bishops with Bishop E5.
Right.
And go for it and just take
But-
that edge. But he's taking way too much time right now.
And the
He's
other
thinking
reason
about it,
I would
though.
like
He's
to
thinking
take-
about
This
it?
is
What
the
are you
last
talking
time.
about? The guy's got 43 seconds left.
That's
Oh,
why
look at the
this
clock
is the last
ticking
chance he has to
down.
think. He thinks it's a critical moment, and
What?
he just have 10 seconds delay, guys.
There is
So-
no critical moment.
10
It
second
is
delay.
time to move.
Yeah.
Move and go. There's nothing important now. Again, the good is the enemy, or the perfect is the enemy of the good. right now, you're looking for that perfect move, and you have 20 seconds on the clock.
Just
you
be
need to
aware.
make good enough moves now. You're not going to survive. And there, he played rook to e6.
Oof.
Now the Indians really hate his last move, by the way.
Yeah, I can feel the advantage slipping away. That was not
Played some
an
uncertain
incisive
moves. After all that
was
brilliant chess before, he is not doing it now.
Rook D7
And
guarding
rook
the second
D7.
rank.
And he's got to have a move ready. Just move.
Yeah, and look at that, 20 seconds.
Again, let's try it.
Jen,
Rook
look at the
F5.
clock.
Make the move.
Look at the clock, 14 seconds.
Come on. This is
Oh, my
outrageous.
F5
goodness.
and Rook F8.
Here
He's about to blow London right now. Finally, rook F5.
Oof.
16 seconds to try to convert this position when he's just not winning. He even might win a pawn, but he's not just winning. This is crazy.
40,000 on the line here, guys, and a trip
And
to
G6
London.
played. Now, Rook F3 immediately played by Fabi,
Wow.
hitting the bishop on C3.
Did he? Oh, thank goodness, I was about to say.
Rook A4.
Yeah, what did that move do? Well, now we know. It hits the bishop on C3. Okay, and
And Bishop D4 played.
And White's advantage is gone. Let's just be
Right.
clear. White's advantage no longer
Well,
exists. Now he
remember,
just has
we
to
can-
survive.
And he's got a disadvantage on the clock, as you pointed
And
out.
what
A
happened?
minute less for
Rook to
Fabi.
E4.
rook E4 chasing the bishop.
Luckily,
to-
Bishop G1 can be answered by G4, and I might play it anyway if I'm White. Just White's solid. White's okay here, but he needs moves. He needs to just play G4 and try to get out of this mess.
Did he play bishop G1, though?
No, the bishop
He
hasn't
did it.
moved yet.
It's Wesley
Wesley's
now
still
going
looking.
underneath a minute. And so we're playing bullet with a delay.
I play
Bullet
G,
with
like
the
I said,
delay.
I play G4 no
And
matter
bishop
what he
G7.
does, just to
Okay,
get out of
that's a
this thing.
solid move. That's a solid move. Bishop G7. And Wesley is now finally ready to
Rook
play
E3 played.
Rook, which rook?
Rook on 3 to E3.
Rook
Yeah.
F E3.
And that's actually the engine's first choice, as he's still looking for accurate moves in this position. Let's just hope the mistake does not just flow out of nowhere. Now rook to B7. Look
to
at this.
B7. Hello.
Now
I've got
that move
ideas.
is very tricky.
I've got ideas.
Rook E2 protecting his position,
Rook E2.
but is that enough?
Well, I can trade rooks and finally get an active rook.
You got to watch out for the
What
penetration
about
for the white
Rook
rook,
E7,
though.
aren't you nervous?
Yeah, I'd have to go like
you can't
king
ta- you can't
G8 and
take.
there's a rook C6, you mean? Okay, rook
Yeah.
E2. Okay.
I'm worried that your king position is even worse than mine in that line, and that my pawn's a little closer, so...
Wesley's time ticking
gonna be a
down
race.
as well, and he's traded.
Trade of the rooks.
Now, Fabi will get no more than 16 seconds for the rest of the game, as his delay is keeping on this spot. And now Bishop to
37
D4.
seconds is the base time
Now-
for Wesley.
Now it's time for Wesley to start thinking getting as king.
Rook E4 played, tempo.
Okay, rook E4.
White's supposed to be better, according to the engine right now, but it's not clear where that better
It's
is
about the clock.
in this
Rook
position.
E8 to Rook E8 coming to try to get the C pawn. I mean, that looks
Oops, sorry.
dangerous.
Absolutely.
He's decided to tempo on D4 first, probably trying to make you clarify
And
whether you're
what's
going for
the
Bishop
clock?
G1.
Rook
What's the
B4,
clock?
and
B4.
he'll notice how that piece tripped.
It did.
It tripped on
I saw it.
on the
I saw
B5
that.
square, and in
Yeah.
fact, the engine registered it as Rook to B4, but now Rook to E7 can change the nature of the game, but
rook
he didn't see it.
F4.
He didn't
Rook
see it.
F4. Setting
Rook
up a
to
trap.
E7 was super
King
strong.
G7 can be met by Rook takes to Bishop.
Don't walk into that skewer. Ooh.
And Wesley now just ticked under Fabi, although he has that plus 10
King.
on the clock.
I think
So
he's at 28 seconds base time.
King
no, I
G8.
don't.
mean,
not
18.
28. Now he's at 18. Now he's at 16
Yeah.
base time.
G1.
Bishop
Oh,
G1 with
my
some hidden
word.
mating ideas.
Ooh,
But he
ooh,
could chase
ooh.
that bishop. Rook F1,
And he did.
get it out
There
of
it
there,
is.
move it, no mate threats.
And
Bishop
bishop
back to
came
D4,
back to
Rook
D4.
F7, Shack sinking into the position. Rook C7, he's going after the C pawn. That's
King
what
G-
we thought he was going for.
I thought he was going to play King G8 instead of that boom Bishop G1, but okay. Rook,
Rook takes A4. Both pawns have come down, and I foreshadowed earlier Wesley's going to grab that queen, as
King just
is
moved to
Fabi.
F7, not quite on the square there.
I was
Now,
about to
Rook
say,
A6.
did that move even get registered? That
My
king
heart
looked
is
a little-
pounding. Guys.
C pawn is fast. See, that C pawn is right in C6, C7, Rook A8, C8
No
queen.
kidding.
Really fast right now, and Wesley in trouble trying to deal with this, and that's a check. And if he goes backwards, he gets mated. If he tries to put his king on C8, that's mate. King D7, C6, King C8, Rook A8 is mate.
Mate.
So what are you supposed to do? King D5, there goes that pawn.
Get that queen ready.
White is
And
now
it's-
winning.
It's all about that
Exactly.
rook. The rook on a6 is so much more powerful than the
4
rook on
seconds
a4.
for Wesley.
4
3, 2. And he's gotten behind it, but now it's firmly defended. The threat is rook to a8 and queens.
Exactly.
How to stop it?
You can't play bishop e5 because if rook takes a5, and that's the ball
That's a
game.
piece, and he's played a4 desperately.
But there's rook
with only
a8.
2 seconds. Rook a8, you have to resign.
Anchor the pawn. We've seen this tactic so many times in the
Oh, wait,
Sinquefield Cup.
there's an
5,
a3.
4,
There's an
he's done
a3.
it. He's done it.
If
He's
you
played it.
a3, he has to wait one tempo, guys, because a3 saves him from queens, right?
A3, you're saying there's...
Oh, he
Yeah,
played
you play bishop b2 as his
And
waiting
now here
move.
comes the queen, and he's calculated that he is indeed winning, as he's going to be able to get his rook behind that pawn,
Right.
at least. And there it is.
Have it. Fabiano is going to London twice for
Twice.
the World Championship and then for the Grand Chess Tour title. Congratulations to Fabiano Caruana.
Woo!
Beat his Olympic teammate Wesley
What would have
in
happened
a fun playoff.
instead of bishop b2, Maurice? What would have happened after a3? Because you mentioned a3.
I don't know. It just looked like
okay,
a try.
I got it over on my.
Let me pull it up. I can pull it up. Rook,
Okay.
Rook 8, A3. I think he has to take it.
A4.
The engine gives Rook A5 check. King has to go back to E6.
Okay.
And then, wow, Rook A4.
Oh,
That's some
I didn't see that.
queening with check, hitting the rook, hitting through the bishop.
I was playing for
That was
rook
terrifying.
a3, bishop
Rook A3
b6.
looking like a normal
Rook
move.
a3, bishop b6 is
But
what I was
no,
playing.
cheers and applause for Fabiano
Wow.
for managing himself, his nerves in that one. Whew, that was exciting. And I have to tell you, this is where I prefer delay to increment because they just had only that time, base time,
very
each time, and had to make quick moves instead of running up to a minute plus. And that was an incredibly exciting finish on the race to London as Caruana has made it.
He secured his spot, and here we see it. The official top 4 who are going to the Grand Chess Tour final in London. Hikaru Nakamura, the U.S. star who shines so bright in both the Paris and St. Louis Rapid and Blitz tournaments, is going to be facing his Olympic gold teammate Fabiano Caruana in the semifinals. And we're also going to see...
In an elimination match, yeah.
That's right. We're also going to see Aronian and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave headed to London, 2 of the most fun players on the tour as well.
Exactly.
It's just
Ooh, I'm still recovering. That was heart-pounding.
a thrilling and very deserving quartet, yes.
Oh, no question. Those guys have played a great Grand Chess Tour, and all accolades.
Well, he kept us on the edge of our seats
Yes, he
as he
did.
defeated his gold Olympic teammate, Wesley. And here he is, Fabiano Caruana, our 4th finalist on the Grand Chess Tour.
Well, he continues to regale us with his determination, tenacity, and poise in the critical moments. And this one was one of those, Fabi, this is sort of a boring game you just played. Well, no, I'm kidding, of course. Congratulations, first of all. Excellent result. Winning the Sinquefield Cup, tying for first in that, and also qualifying for London. An improbable comeback, given how poorly you started on the Rapid and Blitz events. To be able to pull it off now must be very satisfying.
Yeah, I'm incredibly happy, especially with how it all ended, because after Magnus won yesterday, for a second I thought that I was just out. And then I realized that it was a tie, and that was already a huge relief that I still have a chance to make it. But yesterday was sort of a roller coaster of emotions, and today as well.
You were able to equalize that first game in pretty straightforward fashion. With this second game, you had this big moment that the engines were finding this Rook A2 move, which is obviously not an easy move at any level to find.
Yeah.
Everybody will appreciate the depth of that move. When did you see it?
Yeah, I started thinking about bishop f4, and after bishop d4 I realized I'm just worse. I couldn't find a way to make b4 work because he actually just gets a5 in all the time. And then I tried to make b4 work, but then I realized he takes, I play bishop f4, and he just plays like a5, ignoring the bishop on f2, and he has this g5 move regaining the bishop, so I'm still not equalizing there. Yeah, rook b4 c5 is also just sad. Like bishop f4 and a5 is important. Yeah. Instead of, b4 take, bishop f4, a5 is
Cementing
important.
that pawn on b4.
Yeah, and then the bishop is immune because of g5, and black has a large advantage in the... Okay, maybe it's still a draw objectively, but... And then I saw this rook a2 move after I don't know, maybe 8 minutes of thought, something like that.
Yeah, you went in for a while.
So it was only near the end, and after I saw it, I almost immediately played it.
Right. When I thought that's what would happen when you see the kind of thing, your brain is running and running and running, and you're desperate, and then a move just says,
Yeah.
and you play it immediately. Then the game got tense. I mean, it wasn't so easy even after that.
Well, I thought Rook D8 was maybe not. Yeah, like Rook F5 it should be a draw, and I assume it's just an equal position. But then he allowed me Rook D6, and I started to get very optimistic. At least that I could keep the game going. I mean, I know it's not a huge advantage, but Black is suffering, especially after Rook C8. Maybe he could make something else work, but Rook D6, CD6, I also thought. G5, Bishop C1, and I do keep my D pawn, and he has two rather weak pawns, so he'll probably suffer quite a lot here. And then the game, I mean, I thought I have a huge advantage. His rook is just trapped on the 8th rank, but I couldn't quite find a way to make progress.
There were other ways for you to prosecute the play, apparently, but we saw you both were in a terrific time pressure when it really turned into blitz mode.
Yeah, here I just didn't see what to do, so I tried to get this Rook F5. And then I was just trying to keep his rook out because I really didn't want to allow some sort of counterattack with it. You know, low on time, you might get mated. So basically all my moves at this point were just trying to keep his rook out. And I was very happy to get G6 in because then I know that my king is always safe and his king is not. And then somewhere he offered a draw, but I didn't really think about it.
Oh, he offered?
Yeah, I forget which moment exactly.
Were you up on the time? Were you up on time when this happened? I mean, well, how much was he up on time?
No, at that point we were equal on time, so I assume it was after we traded rooks. After Bishop D4 he offered a draw. This was the moment, but I don't see any risk for me, and I still saw winning chances because I do have a C pawn which is far more advanced than any of his pawns, and his king is still more vulnerable than mine. I thought this Rook F4 move was actually a really nice one because basically if I play like Rook E7 first, then he kind of gains the tempo. So I'm playing Rook F4 to actually it's the same position, isn't it?
Yeah, the inch is like Rook E7.
No, it's exactly the same position. I just realized I must have gotten confused. I thought Rook F4 was clever, but it's exactly the same thing.
Well, you can be forgiven for that in the time pressure you were in. I don't even know how you think about anything in that moment. It's such a critical time in the game.
Yeah, my thought process was strange. I thought like Rook F4, King G8, Rook F8, King G7. That's a tempo up, right? Because the king is on G7 rather than G8. Maybe. But anyway, I still think that he has a lot of problems to solve here. I assume it's objectively a draw, but it's still very unpleasant. And at this point, he had like 10 seconds, so
But you had 10 seconds too.
Yeah, but my play is very easy. I just played C6, C7, and C8.
By the way, there's a finish here as we push forward, as you realize your pawn was rushing down the board. He had the opportunity after C7 to play the move A3. What were you going to do if he had...
Yeah, this was I have to play Rook A3.
He would play Rook A3. The Indians actually found Rook A5 check as a... Rook A3 is obviously very strong in winning, but Rook A5 check is another...
No, but it's stupid because I could have taken on A4 the move before.
All right, so, take the pawn anyway. That's true.
Which really ends it. But anyway, I mean, besides that one miss at the end, I think it was quite a good game.
Wow. Well, we can say not just a good game, entertaining game from our standpoint. And now you have 2 trips to London to make. You'll be playing for the World Championship and also for the Grand Chess Tour title. Your year has been just astonishing. And it actually started in London last year, the end of London, 2017, when you won a playoffs against the Pomniachi to take the title of the London Chess Classic. And that was the first tournament you had won ahead of Magnus in many a year, in fact.
Yeah, since...
a classical tournament since you won in 2014.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now you've got this great year. It's continuing. How are you doing it?
I don't know. I'm not really doing anything differently than I was before, but everything is going very well. I mean, I had some rough tournaments in the middle of the year in Paris and Leuven, but besides that, the year has been pretty much more than I could have ever expected.
You get to rest. You get to the Olympiad next. What are you going to do in between?
I still have a lot of chess work to do. So, although I will be resting, there will also be a lot of work done as well. But I am glad to at least not have to play any more games for about a month.
Your task is to be board 1 again. You won the title, the gold medal. You also won a personal bronze in the tournament itself for the Olympiad as Board 1 representative of the U.S. team. I know Wesley's dejected now, but you two are about to become real teammates again as he won gold, individual gold, on Board 3. It should be great to team up again with the boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this time we have an even stronger team. I mean, we have the same players, but Sam has improved both his play, it seems, and his rating quite a lot. So, I mean, we definitely have a shot at gold again. But it's going to be very tough, so whether or not we'll make it, I can't be sure.
Your feeling about playing in St. Louis, it's home for you. You live like 2 blocks from here.
Yeah.
The kind of love you get in this city.
Oh, this tournament has been exceptional. I mean, especially like after I drew against Magnus, I got a standing ovation basically as I walked down, which was a first for me because it was just a draw. But I appreciated it. I appreciated all the support I got, especially during this tournament.
And a last word about the Sinquefields and what they've done for chess.
Yeah, it's been great. This tour, which started with an idea in St. Louis, has turned into, such a huge thing. All the top players in the world competing and fighting for just a few spots in the final in London. And this tournament had a slightly higher percentage of draws than we would expect, but I still think that it was exciting, especially the last round. I mean, you can't really hope for more than what we had. I mean, Levon's game, rook takes f7, was one of the most gangster moves I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, it's been great overall. Just this rebirth of chess in St. Louis. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, magnificent performance in both the Sinquefield Cup and regaling us here in this last tiebreak. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
What can we say? Congratulations, Fabi. It was thrilling. I love the gangster reference. And congratulations on all your success from Jennifer and myself. It's just been great. And here's the move that really changed everything in the game. Rook A1 to A2. From a pawn down in a defensive position, this move eventually restored material equality and carried Fabi to his eventual success.
That's right. It was all trending upwards after rook to A2.
Exactly so, yeah. But let's review. Jennifer, I mean, wow. Let's go through all the participants of the Sinquefield Cup.
Well, here we have Sergei Karyakin, who did not have the best tournament in the Sinquefield Cup, but even in the last round, we saw shades of his greatness as the Minotaur defense held on against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
2 pawns down in the rook and pawn endgame. Hikaru, a very, very sour note. Even though he's our Grand Chess Tour #1 seed, lost the final game against Magnus.
And also our St. Louis Rapid and Blitz champion. We also have Wesley So, who ended up fighting so hard against Fabiano for that 4th spot, but came just ever so close and failed. But always a pleasure to have Wesley So in the tournament.
And
so solid.
That thrilling playoff final that we just witnessed denied him his road to London.
Finally, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, 9 draws, but not for want of trying, especially in the last game. He kept fighting and ended up getting 3rd on the Grand Chess Tour, allowing him to find a berth to London where he'll face Aronian.
Exactly.
Oh, and what can you say about Alex Grishuk? An absolute star in the post-game interviews, so funny, so enterprising, knowing that he needed to win one of his last 2 games and possibly both of them. He really put on a show, yes. Yeah,
he really risked everything, went all out. He came up short only because Levon played like an absolute genius.
We have Vachier-Lagrave, and it's so great to see a Vichy in St. Louis. It's one of his favorite places to play chess. And also, we love having him.
Also 9 draws. It was the draw bug that he fought tooth and nail with everybody else. It was just extraordinary that he didn't get a victory out of one of those positions that he held.
And we have Shakhriar Ahmadiyarov. Wow, he thrilled us,
Yes, he
especially in the
did.
St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. And he came close as well to earning
Razor sharp.
the Sinquefield Cup and also getting into the Grand Chess Tour finals. Ever so close. Shakhriar Ahmadiyarov was actually just a point away from finding himself in the playoff with Wesley and Fabi for that last spot.
And what that Rapid and Blitz in St. Louis might have done. Just 1 point. And Fabiano.
Here we have our first co-champion, Fabiano Caruana. What a year. World Championship qualifier for the Grand Chess Tour, also in London. Sinquefield Cup, 2-time champion now. The excitement and the accolades for this young man this year just keep growing.
And $55,000 in the pocket.
And at least another $40K at the Grand Chess Tour Finals in London. Magnus Carlsen, well, everybody loves to watch Carlsen play, and he showed us why here in Sinquefield Cup. Even though he drew 7 of the first 8 games, he fought so hard every game, and he finally, the ultimate grinder, got it done in Nakamura in a position that almost everyone thought was going to be a draw.
Absolutely, but it's his bread and butter, and he's the #1 player in the world and world champion for a reason.
And now also a 2-time Sinquefield Cup champion and the Joker, Aronian. Fabiano Caruana, his fellow co-champion, called him the gangster chess for playing Rook takes F7, a move that certainly delighted us all. Congratulations to Levon. Now he can also say that he's got his name on 2 Sinquefield Cups. Congratulations. And it's going to be a little crowded on the cup this year, although I understand that they're all going to get a trophy. Fabiano Caruana, Levon Aronian, and Magnus Carlsen are our co-champions, and 3 such extraordinary inspirations, and all very different as such a hard worker and great all-around player, down-to-earth as Fabi. Levon, incredibly funny, just brought it when it mattered. And Magnus, like I said before, the ultimate grinder.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know we were going to have a repeat winner. It's extraordinary that we had a 3-peat winner. It's a pretty amazing tournament, Maurice.
And look at our predictions. Yeah, sorry to rub it in, but unfortunately everyone was right.
Sorry.
Everyone was right except for you. So how does that feel?
But let's not rub it in.
You're the only person who was wrong.
Hey, I got to tell you something. I'm happy to go down with the ship with Shaq. I thought he brought it. He made me proud for my pick.
It was a good pick.
It was a good pick.
Just not good enough.
Good try.
I was wrong. Good
better luck in November.
Thanks.
And final thoughts on this incredible 2 weeks of chess, Maurice.
Wait a minute. By the way, not good luck in November. I'm coming back in a week for Fisher 960. We'll talk predictions then. Sorry, Maurice.
Man, I got to think about that myself. But we will definitely hold it over you for at least a week or so.
You got 1 week.
Not much. Let me tell you, it is such a thrill to watch high-level chess and to have this seat, to be able to watch the games intimately, to talk about them, to parse them, to guess at winners, to guess at moves, to see the best players give it their all. Sometimes they fail spectacularly, and sometimes they play such brilliant moves that you are just in awe. And we saw all of it in this tournament. Yes, there was a very low win ratio, but you definitely saw the players fighting it out, desperate for victory, wanting to win. Passion was there. There were no simple GM draws as these players showed the importance of the Sinquefield Cup and the Grand Chess Tour itself. And for me, it's a pleasure. It's been great. It's amazing that it's over. Working with you guys gets better and better. We're not just a team, but a family, and working with everyone else here in St. Louis. What an amazing place to be in for the world of chess and personally for my career. And I'm glad I'm coming back in about 10 days.
All right, Maurice, thank you. If I can get in a final word as well. For me, I'll tell you something. It was not just a historical moment, but there was something incredibly special about the Sinquefield Saturday. This club, man, was filled to the rafters. People were in line. I mean, Fabi just talked about it. I mean, they didn't carry him down the street, but they gave him a standing ovation for a draw.
And what's so awesome to see is the young people, that
atmosphere.
idolize Fabiano, that are starting to come into chess because of him, get more interested.
Absolutely.
And what a great role model he is, as well as our other top American players, Nakamura, and really all the players in the Sinquefield Cup. Somebody, you can really pick your idol here because they're all just great players and people to emulate.
Yeah, but that Sinquefield Saturday, that was just so special. Wow, excellent. Sorry, we have our showdown coming up. Just let's talk about that for a quick second.
Yes, for those of you who are worried about withdrawal,
you need a chess
Champions
fix?
Showdown
Yeah.
Chess 960 is coming up in just 2 weeks. Gary Kasparov is going to be returning to the game, making a comeback, playing in this exciting format where the pieces are shuffled in the back row. I love it.
I got my picks already.
Wesley, he'll be playing against Vachier Topalov, and we've also got Nakamura versus Svidler, Sol versus Giri, Shanklin, our U.S. champion, playing against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and Aronian against Elenier Dominguez, another match that I'm particularly thrilled to call in just 2 weeks, guys.
5 great games, great matches, and the positions will be changed every 4 games, so we'll have a unique starting position for every game. It's just fantastic. For every 4 games. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to calling that one as well.
Indeed, and we do want to remind you all that if you missed any Sinquefield Cup champions because of, obligations with work or family, they're actually all archived on YouTube.
GrandChessTour.org.
You can go to grandchesstour.org, but then also subscribe to St. Louis Chess Club, along with another 170,000 people or so.
Wonderful.
Join the crowd, join the
Lovely.
crew, and you can watch instructional videos as well as all the archives of these thrilling 3 weeks that we've had in St. Louis. I would like to give a couple of thank yous, Yaz.
Sure. I also just want to remind, will we be streaming the closing ceremony?
Yes, we are. That's going to be
Okay.
at 6 p.m. here in St. Louis, so that's 7 p.m. East Coast.
Okay.
And
now the thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, the thank yous to Silverback and to Spectrum Studios and the staffs at the St. Louis Chess Club and the World Chess Hall of
Absolutely.
Fame, as well as, of course, our arbiters and everybody who made this happen, the
Absolutely.
players. We really appreciate the fans.
Oh, most especially. I love signing the Sinquefield books. It was always great. And no, I really want to also say thank you so much to the St. Louis Chess Club. The staff has just been wonderful, catering to all of our needs. Thank you all.
Indeed. And we'll be back in just a couple weeks, so don't miss a minute.
We'll be back in a couple of hours for the closing ceremony. Thank you all very much for joining us. Until next time.